Chapter 1. Awakening After Rebirth. Glug! Early in the morning, Lu Qing woke up to the growling of his stomach. Feeling the hunger in his belly, he sighed and rubbed his stomach. All your noise is in vain. Where am I supposed to find food now? He looked around at his surroundings, a shabby house that could barely be called a home, and gave a bitter smile. Others might have transmigrated smoothly, yet here he was, unable to even fill his stomach. What kind of situation was this? He had been lying in bed for 2 days now. 2 days ago, when Lu Qing opened his eyes, he found himself in this unknown world. Dressed in rags, skin and bones, he had even become a teenage boy. Later, after some time, Lu Qing figured out his predicament. He had transmigrated, reborn into a young man who had just lost both parents, and after selling his family possessions for their burial, he was unable to make it through a cold night due to a weak body and excessive grief. Perhaps, for the original host, this was somewhat of a relief. This was Lu Qing's first thought after accessing the memories in his mind. Surviving in this world as a teenager was too difficult. Death might not necessarily be a bad thing. However, brother, you're awake. Suddenly, Lu Qing's thoughts were interrupted by an excited shout. He turned his head and saw a little girl about 5 or 6 years old, holding a gray object in her hands and standing at the door, looking at him with joy on her face. The little girl ran up to Lu Qing. Brother, are you feeling better? Yes, I'm better now, little Yen. You don't need to worry anymore, Lu Qing replied with a smile. That's great, brother, you're finally better. Hearing Lu Qing say he was all right, the little girl's eyes turned red, tears rolling down her cheeks. These past 2 days your face has been really red and hot, and you kept saying you were cold. I didn't know what to do. You wouldn't respond however loudly I called you. I thought you were going to leave me behind just like Dad and Mom. Watching the little girl cry made Lu Qing feel a surge of heartache. He had been merging with the memories in his mind for the past 2 days and appeared to be in a coma. Although he could barely sense the outside noise, his consciousness couldn't stay clear. Except for briefly waking up a few times, he quickly fell back into unconsciousness again. He vaguely heard the little girls crying and yelling, but couldn't respond. Lu Qing reached out and ruffled the little girl's dry yellow hair. It's my fault, little Yen. I promise you, I won't get sick anymore. Will that stop you from worrying? Yes. Little Yen broke into a smile and extended her little hand. Then, let's make a pinky promise. Lu Qing extended his pinky, and they hooked their fingers together. Hooked fingers. 100 years no change. Whoever changes is a puppy. After making the promise, little Yen instantly felt happier. In her little mind, since they had made a pinky promise, nothing would change anymore, and her brother would never get sick again. Little Yen, what are you holding in your hand? That's when Lu Qing noticed the object in the little girl's hand. It's a steamed bun, brother. Don't you recognize it? Little Yen held up the gray object in both hands and handed it to Lu Qing, excitedly saying, It's from Grandpa Zhang next door. Little Yen didn't want to eat it alone, so I thought I'd bring it back to share with you. I just got back and saw that you were better.
Astemed bun.
Lu Qing looked at the drab object, which differed significantly from the buns he remembered. However, knowing he was now in another world, he felt at ease again. If even the world had changed, it was no surprise the buns looked different. As he pondered this, his gaze lingered on the gray bun for a few seconds, when suddenly, a line of text appeared. Coarse grain bun, made of rice bran, wheat flour, and wild vegetables, with limited nutrition. At the same time, the bun emanated a gray light. What was this? Lu Qing blinked, realizing the text still floated above the gray bun and hadn't disappeared. It seemed it wasn't an illusion. Before Lu Qing could delve deeper, little Yen held the gray bun and offered it to his lips. Brother, eat this. You've just recovered. And Grandpa Chun said people need to eat something nourishing after being sick. Feeling the starving hunger sweeping his body as he smelled the grainy scent of the bun, Lu Qing, who was ravenous, didn't make a fuss. He took the bun, tore off half, and handed it back to little Yen. Let's eat together. He hadn't forgotten that the little one had mentioned earlier that the bun was given to her, and she wanted to share it with him. Unexpectedly, little Yen shook her head and pushed the half back into Lu Qing's hand. Brother, eat. Little Yen is not hungry. You need to eat more so your body can recover faster. Though she said this, Lu Qing distinctly saw her involuntary swallowing when she handed the bun back. Looking at her pale yellow hair, he felt a wave of pity and once again placed the half back in her hand. Brother just recovered and shouldn't eat too much at once. It will upset the stomach. So you eat this half. Is that so? Little Yen, holding the half bun, tilted her head and asked. But it seems different from what Grandpa Chan said. People recovering from serious illness should avoid overeating. If you don't believe, you can ask Grandpa Chan next time if it's true, Lu Qing said. Okay. Little Yen nodded, not fully understanding. Yet, she didn't realize that a coarse grain bun was far from excessive eating. Lu Qing took the opportunity to coax. Since I can't finish it, let's eat together, little Yen. If it gets cold, it won't taste good. Okay. Little Yen nodded firmly. Since brother can't finish, little Yen will help. The siblings thus joyfully nibbled at their halves of the bun. Soon, Lu Qing finished his half. The empty feeling in his stomach finally alleviated with a bit of sustenance, and a warmth spread from his belly, rejuvenating him. To be fair, the bun didn't taste that great, but it was substantial and not small in size. Even with just half, it slightly eased Lu Qing's hunger, not leaving him dizzy and weak as before. Seeing little Yen still nibbling diligently, Lu Qing didn't disturb her and turned his attention to another matter. He remembered the line of text that had appeared on the bun. Thinking it over, Lu Qing stood up, walked to the table, and picked up a chipped bowl. He placed it before his eyes and watched quietly. Then, after a few seconds, he saw a layer of gray light emerge on the bowl with a line of text. Broken pottery bowl. A chipped pottery bowl that seems a bit unclean. It was just as he suspected, and a smile crossed Lu Qing's face. Chapter 2 Superpower. Oh no, don't run. Inside the small courtyard enclosed by a simple wooden fence, little Yen was chasing a butterfly with her short, little legs. Lu Qing sat on a stone stump, looking at a plant with small red flowers in his hand. At this moment, in his field of vision, the plant with the small red flowers was emitting a faint white glow, with 2 lines of text floating above it. Cow bone grass. Average quality. Can be used medicinally. Seems to be quite effective for bone injuries. Might be useful when injured. It had taken some time, but Lu Qing had more or less figured out what the text before his eyes was all about. In simple terms, perhaps due to transmigration, he had acquired a superpower. The main manifestation of this superpower for now was that whenever he concentrated his gaze on a certain item, after a while, the item would glow and a simple text description would appear. Moreover, the longer the gaze stayed, the more information he would get, but this information wasn't unlimited. There seemed to be some standard to it. This standard, Lu Qing guessed for the time being, probably had something to do with the glow that emerged from the items. Items with a gray glow, no matter how long he looked, only had 1 strip of description. Items with a white glow had more than 2 strips of description. And the cow bone grass in Lu Qing's hands was the only plant he had found around the small courtyard that emitted a white light. What is this, a game interface? Lu Qing thought of some of the map-running games he had played occasionally in his previous life. He thought about it and beckoned with his hand. Little Yen, come here a moment. Brother, what is it? The little one ran over cheerfully. Brother wants to take a look at you. Lu Qing helped the little one remove the withered grass sticking to her head and focused his gaze on her face. After a while, a faint white glow appeared on little Yen, and a line of text emerged above her. Lu Xiaoyan, a human cub, female. What a poor description. Lu Qing's head throbbed with several black lines. However, he continued to look on. After a while, another line of text appeared. A pitiful human cub. She seems to be a bit malnourished. Lu Qing paused, looking at the little one's yellowish hair on her head, feeling somewhat silent. Brother, have you finished looking? Little Yen looked up innocently and asked. Yes, I have. Little Yen will definitely be a great beauty when she grows up. Lu Qing rubbed the little one's hair tenderly. Little Yen tilted her head. What's a great beauty? Ha ha, you'll know when you grow up. Hearing the little one's innocently spoken words, Lu Qing's mood also brightened a lot. No matter what the future holds, the most important thing for now is to take good care of this little one who depends on him for life. This was also the biggest lingering wish left by the original owner before his death. And to live well in this strange world, he would have to rely on this inexplicably acquired superpower. With this thought, Lu Qing picked up the cow bone grass and placed it in front of Little Yen. Little Yen, do you know what this plant is and what it's used for? Little Yen looked at the plant with the blue flowers, furrowed her brows in concentration for a moment, and then shook her head. I don't know. But Grandpa Zhang's big ox seems to really like eating this kind of grass. Seeing Little Yen didn't know, Lu Qing couldn't help but laugh at himself. He was being foolish. Even the original owner's memories didn't contain any information about cow bone grass, and yet he had expected a child of only a few years to know. However, Little Yan's next statement made him pause. Brother, if you want to know what this grass is, you can go ask Grandpa Chen. He loves all these flowers and plants, and he even likes to brew those flowers and plants into a bitter concoction for us to drink. At this point, Little Yen seemed to recall something, and her entire little face scrunched up. Grandpa Chen? Lu Qing reminisced within his memories, and soon, the image of a kind and lean old man surfaced in his mind. Ah, the elder doctor respected by the villagers. Doctor? A thought flickered through Lu Qing's mind. According to the note, cow bone grass was undoubtedly a medicinal herb, but he wondered whether old Dr. Chun knew how to use it. Little Yen, when brother was sick, did Grandpa Chun come over? He did, brother. You were always sleeping at that time, and even when Little Yen called out to you, you wouldn't wake up. I was scared, so I cried a lot. Then Grandpa Chin came, and after looking at you, he said you were sick. Something about a cold wind. He brewed that bitter medicine for you to drink, and after you drank it, a day later, brother, you woke up. As Little Yen spoke, she suddenly exclaimed in awe. Grandpa Chun is so amazing. Brother got better just by drinking a bowl of bitter water. Lu Qing was silent. Only he knew that the medicine old Dr. Chun had prescribed hadn't saved the boy's life. But now he remembered that during the haze of his consciousness, he had indeed felt someone feeding him something that gave his chilling body a sliver of warmth, protecting his heart and allowing him to endure the difficult period of consciousness fusion. Otherwise, with his frail body, it was uncertain whether he would have woken up successfully. In hindsight, it seemed that old Dr. Chun indeed possessed genuine skills and thus had earned his gratitude. Lu Qing was pondering this when he suddenly felt a gaze. Looking down, he saw Little Yen staring at him. What's wrong, Little Yen? Brother, Little Yen is hungry. Lu Qing felt hungry, too. He hadn't eaten much to begin with, and the half of a bun he had eaten earlier was long digested. But he had noticed earlier that there was nothing left to eat at home. The rice jar was so clean that even mice wouldn't come near. If it weren't for Grandpa Zhang next door, in the days that he had been unconscious, Little Yen might have starved. With this in mind, Lu Qing remembered that he should thank Grandpa Zhang and old Dr. Chun for their care. Without their help, he and his sister might not have survived. But their home was currently too poor, completely empty, and they couldn't even offer a small gift of thanks. He decided to first figure out how to fill their stomachs. The thanks could wait a little longer. But where could he find food? Most of the family's farmland had been sold by the original owner to afford their parents' funerals. The little that remained was neglected and bore almost no harvest. So, the prospect of finding sustenance in the fields was hopeless. Distant waters couldn't extinguish a nearby fire. Even if they planted crops now, they wouldn't grow in time, and they could starve before the crops matured. After some thought, Lu Qing went into the room where his parents once lived, searched around, and finally found a metal needle and some hemp thread from a small box. The needle was much thicker than the embroidery needles from his past life, seeming quite sturdy. Lu Qing took out the metal needle, heated it in fire for a bit, and then used a pair of chopsticks to bend it into a hook shape. He then took several strands of the hemp thread, carefully twisted them into a somewhat thicker and more durable thread, and tightly tied the iron hook. Next, he cut a length of resilient bamboo from the clump behind the house and tied the other end of the hemp line to it. Lastly, he tied a segment of dry wood above the hook on the hemp line to serve as a float. A simple fishing rod was thus crafted by Lu Qing. Chapter 3, Wanna Go Fishing? Brother, what is this? Little Yen had been quietly watching Lu Qing busily working away, and when he finished making the fishing rod, she couldn't help but ask with curiosity. This is called a fishing rod. It's used for fishing. Whether we'll have anything to eat today depends entirely on this. Lu Qing waved the bamboo rod, testing its feel in his hand, and he was somewhat satisfied. In his previous life, he was an angling enthusiast and would sometimes enjoy making small rods for fun. He hadn't expected this skill would actually come in handy here. The little one's eyes suddenly sparkled. Brother, can you catch fish? Whether I can catch any is still uncertain. Let's try and see. If we really catch fish, we'll have fish soup to drink. Fish soup. Upon hearing these two words, little Yen had already drifted into a fantasy, her saliva almost spilling from the corner of her mouth. Brother, let's go fishing quickly. The little one was becoming impatient. The last time she had fish was a long, long time ago, during the new year, when their father had bought a big fish from the market. In her memory, fish was incredibly delicious. Don't be in such a hurry, we still need to prepare some bait. Bait wasn't hard to find. Lu Qing went to a cooler, fertile patch of earth in the corner of the courtyard, and after digging a couple of times, found the bait he needed. Red earthworm, a great helper for loosening soil, seemingly can also be used as medicine. Ignoring the peculiar information that appeared about the earthworm, Lu Qing placed it into a bamboo tube. He was digging up this creature not to use as medicine. He didn't understand medical skills. After sealing the bamboo tube, leaving only a small hole for air, Lu Qing shouldered the fishing rod and carried an old wooden bucket in his hand. The siblings set off, walking proudly to the outside. No sooner had they left the small courtyard and not gone far in the village, they were stopped by a woman. Lu Qing, you're better, able to walk? The woman was cradling a basket of clothes, clearly just back from washing them. Her tone was full of surprise. Wasn't it said that the Lu family boy was seriously ill, and barely had any breath left? Even elder Dr. Chan had seen him and said it was up to fate. How come in just one day he was bouncing around, able to go outside? Just last night, the villagers were discussing when to go collect his body. Yes, Aunt Wong, I don't know how, but after sleeping for 2 days, my illness slowly got better, and this morning I could get out of bed, Lu Qing answered in the previous owner's usual tone of voice. It was fortunate that the former host was somewhat reserved by nature and not difficult to imitate. Brother got better after drinking Grandpa Chen's medicine, little Yen interjected from the side. Aunt Wong didn't pay attention to any changes in Lu Qing's character. Seeing that Lu Qing seemed truly better, she also smiled. She repeatedly said, "It's good that you're better, really good." At the same time, she let out a sigh of relief. The last 2 days, a few elderly people in the village had visited Lu Qing and afterwards had said that he probably wouldn't make it through the ordeal. Everyone was discussing what would become of Lu Xiaoyan if the Lu family boy really didn't make it. The consensus among the elders was that one of the village families should take in little Yen, with the rest pitching in some money as a nutritional stipend. To her dismay, her own man came back saying he wanted to adopt little Yen, claiming that during a previous famine when everyone fled the village together, the Lu family's patriarch had been kind to him and he couldn't stand to see his last bloodline go uncared for. Naturally, Aunt Wong was not pleased with the idea of an unexpected burden, but she dared not openly rebuke her man, so all she could do was pray that Lu Qing would pull through. Now seeing that Lu Qing had indeed recovered, she sincerely felt happy. Thinking of this, Aunt Wong said earnestly to Lu Qing, "Ah, Lu Qing, you must take good care of yourself in the future. Little Yen only has you to rely on now. If you were not here either, what would she do all alone?" Lu Qing was somewhat surprised. In the original host's memory, This Aunt Wang didn't seem to be such a warm-hearted person. However, he still politely responded, I understand. Thank you for your concern, Aunt Wang. I will take good care of little Yen. Good. That's a smart boy. Aunt Wang was satisfied. As long as Lu Qing was still around, her man wouldn't get the idea of adopting little Yen, and she wouldn't have to worry anymore. As her spirits lifted, Aunt Wang finally noticed the items the siblings were holding in their hands. You are holding buckets and bamboo poles. What are you going to do with those? Aunt Wang, my brother and I are going to catch fish, little Yen happily exclaimed. Catch fish? Aunt Wang asked, puzzled. With just a bamboo pole and a broken bucket, what kind of fish could they possibly catch? She thought about the current conditions of the Lu family and suddenly realized. Could it be that these two siblings were so hungry that they wanted to go down to the river to catch fish to eat? Aunt Wang quickly said, You must be hungry. Come on, come back to my house with me. I still have some food there. Lu Qing, you've only just begun to feel better. What are you doing going down to the river? Don't catch a cold and get sick again. Don't worry, Aunt Wang. We're not going into the river. We just want to try fishing from the shore. Lu Qing said with a smile, declining the offer. A free meal would naturally be lovely, but he and his sister couldn't keep relying on the villagers forever. Otherwise, even the warmest of relations would one day run dry. Fishing? Lu Qing, do you even know that skill? Aunt Wang was surprised. She, of course, knew what fishing was, but it seemed that no one in the village was particularly skilled in it. Did Lu Qing understand? I only know a little, heard about it from my father before and wanted to try, Lu Qing replied. Aunt Wang then remembered that Lu Qing's father could read some and often traveled outside the village. Surely his experiences were much broader than those of the other villagers. Maybe he knew some special method. Still, Aunt Wang was somewhat worried. There's no hurry at the moment. Your health has just started to improve. You need to rest more. Is fishing really that easy? Don't end up catching a cold again because you stood by the river for too long without catching fish. If Lu Qing fell ill again, with his frail body, it was uncertain whether he could survive another bout. Lu Qing heard the concern in her voice and felt touched. Don't worry, Aunt Wang. I'll be careful and won't overdo it. Aunt Wang tried persuading him further, but seeing that it was to no avail, she could only say, Then you have to promise Aunt Wang you absolutely must not go into the river. Okay, we absolutely won't go into the river. Goodbye, Aunt Wang. Aunt Wang watched as Lu Qing and his sister walked toward the village outskirts when suddenly, she had a realization. Right, I must hurry and tell that stubborn man at home that the Lu boy has recovered, so he can drop the idea of adopting the little girl. Aunt Wang rushed home hastily, while the Lu siblings, on their way out, also ran into a few more people from the village. Every villager who saw Lu Qing was shocked and asked how he had recovered from his sickness. Each time, little Yen would happily tell them that her brother got better after taking Grandpa Chen's medicine. This made the crowd not only surprised but also gave them even more respect for old Dr. Chen. The elder doctor's medical skill had truly become exquisite. He could even save someone like Lu Qing, who was at death's door. That was incredible. After expressing their astonishment, everyone was also happy for the Lu family, because with Lu Qing alive, the family's lineage was preserved. When they learned that Lu Qing was going to the riverside to catch fish, they all urged him not to, as it was not suitable to get into cold water just after recovering from a serious illness. Only after Lu Qing promised repeatedly that he wouldn't go into the river did they stop dissuading him. Moreover, when they heard that Lu Qing was going to fish, they lost interest. Who didn't know how to fish? Some of the villagers had even tried to fish themselves. After all, river fish were plump and delicious, free for the taking. Who wouldn't be tempted? But in the end, all who had tried gave up. They felt fishing was just too difficult. They often waited half a day only to catch one or two small fish. Even if they did catch a bigger fish, it wasn't worth the effort. Didn't everyone have loads of farming work to do? Spending so much time for a fish or two was a waste. Life had to go on. It was probably because Lu Qing's family fields were fallow, with no farm work to be done and not a grain of surplus food left, that he thought of fishing for something to eat. After understanding Lu Qing's intentions, People stopped trying to stop him, and after a few more reminders, they dispersed. On the other hand, a few older children became very interested upon hearing Lu Qing's words. They followed behind the siblings and headed for the riverside, eager to see how he would fish. Chapter 4. Fishing Spots. Lu Qing, followed by a string of little followers, arrived at the riverside just outside the village. The river wasn't very large. At its widest, it was only about 10 meters across. Although the river wasn't wide, it was quite deep. The deepest parts could submerge a person's head, so the adults always forbade the village children from playing in the river. Lu Qing naturally heeded such warnings. So, once he reached the riverbank, he immediately said sternly to the few little kids who had followed him, "You guys, don't go near the riverbank, and don't play in the water. Got it?" Despite his slender build, Lu Qing was already 14 or 15 years old, which made him seem almost like an adult in the eyes of the children. Because of that, the kids dared not disobey him and obediently responded, "Got it, brother Lu Qing." Seeing that the little kids had agreed, Lu Qing then said to little Yen, "And little Yen, you have to be good too. Don't go near the riverbank. Just watch the bucket up here, and don't let the fish get away." "Okay." "Okay." Little Yen also obediently responded, and then asked, "Brother, when are you going to start fishing?" "Don't rush me, I need to look a little longer. Fishing isn't about randomly choosing a spot to fish." This was the wisdom Lu Qing had gleaned from experience. In the pursuit of fishing, if you wanted to catch good fish, there were several important steps. For instance, choosing a spot, baiting the water, setting the float, and preparing the bait. Each step could influence the angler's chances of getting a bite. Among these steps, the most crucial was undoubtedly choosing the right fishing spot. A good fishing spot could directly affect the probability of getting a bite. After all, it's tough to cook without rice. If a poorly chosen spot had no fish beneath the water, even if you were a masterful angler with excellent fishing techniques, it would all be to no avail and unlikely yield any results. In his past life, Lu Qing had been an avid fisherman and had gained quite a bit of insight into the art of fishing. Therefore, he was also quite experienced in choosing fishing spots. Although he now found himself in a different world, many of the principles that govern all things remain consistent across the board. The fish of Otherworld, he figured, probably didn't behave too differently. So he thought that maybe he could use his previous life's experience to pick a good spot and make this fishing trip more efficient and rewarding. He didn't even consider baiting the water this time. At home, they were short on food for themselves, let alone extra to bait the water with. After instructing the little tykes not to wander off and to stay by a big tree, Lu Qing began to walk up and down the riverbank, surveying the surface of the water. Soon, he spotted a location that seemed promising. He found a stick to press down the weeds at the water's edge and made his way to the spot to have a closer look. This was a bend in the river, where the flow was gentle and the water plants lush, seemingly a decent spot for fishing. After observing for a while, Lu Qing felt somewhat satisfied and was about to turn back to fetch his fishing rod, when a flicker of gray light suddenly appeared in his field of vision. To Lu Qing, such a gray glow was all too familiar. He had seen it countless times that day. He froze and quietly watched the water surface. He saw the gray light slowly surface, forming a spiral water pattern about 1 meter in diameter on the water. Subsequently, a line of text appeared, "Ordinary fishing spots, where the small fish gather." It seems to be a good choice for fishing. Its location was precisely the spot that Lu Qing had just chosen. Lu Qing blinked in surprise, followed by a burst of delight in his heart. His superpower actually had such a function, able to detect even something like a fishing spot. At the same time, he felt a hint of pride. Sure enough, his experience in choosing fishing spots was quite reliable, even validated by his superpower. With this unexpected discovery, Lu Qing was no longer in a rush to start fishing. He continued to walk along the riverbank. Only this time he deliberately used his superpower to search for more fishing spots over the river. Before long, he discovered 2 new fishing spots along this stretch of the river. What excited him even more was that one of the fishing spots was not giving off a gray light, but a faint white glow. Ordinary fishing spots. Essential paths where schools of fish search for food. Fishing here may yield a decent catch. Primary fishing point. Wild fruits often fall here, a favorite food of some large fish. Fishing here might lead to a unique and unexpected catch. 3-word strips. The first was for the gray light fishing spot, and the remaining 2 describe the white light fishing point. Indeed, the gray and white lights represent different grades of the same thing, with the gray corresponding to ordinary fishing spots and the white to primary fishing points. Lu Qing muttered to himself. Moreover, from the descriptions on the strips, it was clear that there were even higher levels of fishing spots. It was just unknown whether there were fishing spots of that caliber further along the river outside the village. After discovering these 3 fishing spots, Lu Qing didn't continue his search. These 3 spots already covered the cleaner section of the river outside the village. Walking further would mean increasingly dense vegetation on both sides of the river and more difficult terrain. Unless tools were used to clear the area, it wouldn't be just about fishing. It would be hard to even get close to the riverbank. Right now, he didn't have the energy for such a task. Besides, discovering these 3 fishing spots was already enough for his current needs. What he needed to consider now was where to fish among these spots. After pondering a moment, Lu Qing finally decided to start at the very first fishing spot he had discovered. The reason was simple. According to the description provided by Superpower, that spot was most likely to be populated by smaller fish. The fishing rod Lu Qing had crafted was the simplest kind. He was uncertain about the durability of the hemp line, or the amount of force it could withstand. Rushing to fish for big fish if the line were to break, then he would be the one to cry. After all, there wasn't much hemp left at home to twist into a few proper fishing lines. More critically, he had only 1 set of hooks, and if that were lost, he wouldn't be able to fish at all. So it was safer to start with the smaller fish. Having made up his mind, Lu Qing started to head back, coming to the big tree and finding the little brats all waiting obediently. He nodded in satisfaction. In fact, Lu Qing hadn't gone far. He stayed within sight of the little brats on purpose, fearing they'd run around if they couldn't see him. "Big brother, you're back." Seeing Lu Qing return, little Yen was the first to cheerfully greet him. I'm back. Then have you decided where you want to fish?" "I have, let's go there now." Hearing that Lu Qing had made up his mind where to fish, the little brats perked up as well. The more spirited ones immediately came forward to help carry the bucket. "Brother Lu Qing, let me help you with this." Lu Qing didn't refuse. The biggest of these little brats were around 11 or 12, and the youngest were about 8 or 9, all at an age brimming with energy, so it was good for them to burn some off. The group quickly arrived at the fishing spot Lu Qing had chosen. "You guys just stay up here and watch me fish. Don't get too close to the riverbank, okay?" "Ahu, you're the oldest. Help me keep an eye on them." Ahu was the oldest child among these little brats. 12 years old, he was already at an age where he understood responsibility. "Got it, brother Lu Qing." Seeing the little brats obediently agreeing, Lu Qing nodded in satisfaction, picked up the fishing rod and the bucket, and headed down the slope to the fishing spot. Chapter 5: Rich Harvest. Lu Qing arrived at the fishing spot and trampled the grass around flat, placing it in a wooden barrel, then took out the bamboo container holding the earthworms. He removed the mud seal from the bamboo container, revealing the red earthworms wriggling inside. The sharp-eyed little rascals, from their higher vantage point, saw the wriggling beings in the bamboo container and immediately cried out in astonishment. They certainly knew what earthworms were. They often caught them for play. Sometimes they dug them up to feed their family's chickens and ducks. But they didn't know that they could be used to catch fish. Under the watchful eyes of the little rascals, Lu Qing took out an earthworm and threaded it onto the hook. Then he cast the still twisting earthworm into the water. It landed exactly at the gray swirling fishing spot marked by his superpower. Once the hook was in the water, Lu Qing began to wait quietly. The little rascals behind him on the slope held their breath, their eyes fixed on the scene. Soon, they saw the small stick tied to the fishing line, now floating on the water's surface, begin to gently move. This made the little rascals even more tense. Only Lu Qing remained calm and steady, not moving and letting the stick tremble there. Not until the stick tilted upward sharply and suddenly sank did he quickly jerk the fishing rod upward. A white line flew out of the water. By the time everyone saw clearly, a small white fish as thick as 2 fingers was already hanging on the hook. "We actually caught a fish." Seeing the small white fish hanging on the hook, constantly flicking and jumping its tail, the little rascals were stunned. Little Yen even jumped up. "Brother caught a fish. It's a big one." Lu Qing also smiled. It was good that his skills hadn't regressed. Catching one on the first try was a relief, otherwise it would have been embarrassing in front of a bunch of little rascals. He removed the fish, observing it closely. This small white fish resembled the whitefish he had fished in his previous life. Soon, a faint gray light emerged from the body of the fish. Small white fish. Edible. Perhaps good for nutritional supplement. Seeing the words edible, Lu Qing instantly felt relieved. Being edible was good. At least today's food supply was secured. He poured some water into the barrel and placed the fish inside. Hearing the little rascals behind him still shouting excitedly, somewhat helplessly, "Quiet down a bit. Don't scare all the fish away." Hearing this, the little rascals quickly covered their mouths, not daring to make any more noise. But the excitement in their eyes simply couldn't be hidden. Seeing that Lu Qing had actually caught a fish, they felt as if they had discovered a new world, their hearts incredibly thrilled. However, what happened next made the little rascals realize what truly thrilling excitement was. Lu Qing threaded another earthworm and had barely put the hook back in the water when the float moved again, and he pulled up another small white fish. From then on, Lu Qing entered continuous casting mode. One small fish after another was ceaselessly pulled up by him, the ease of it almost like he was simply lifting fish directly from the water. The fish he caught were not limited to small whitefish. Other types of small fish were also caught in abundance. Various fish like yellowbone fish and small river shrimp were also plentiful in the catch. This scene made the little rascals behind him truly excited to no end. If it weren't for their fear of scaring the fish away, they would have shouted out loud. Lu Qing reached into the bamboo container once more, but came up empty. Looking inside, he saw that most of the earthworms in the bamboo container had been used up, with only a few remaining at the bottom. Glancing at the wooden barrel next to him, it was brimming full, a bountiful harvest indeed. He couldn't help but smile. It had been a long time since he'd felt such satisfaction from a fishing rod. No wonder it was Otherworld, where the native environment fostered such unique fish. The sensation of their strength was full, even the smaller fish felt substantial when pulled up. At the same time, he felt somewhat relieved. It was good that he had chosen this fishing spot, where even the small fish tugged powerfully. If he had gone to the other 2 spots, he feared the line would have snapped immediately under the pull of larger fish. Noticing that the earthworms were almost used up, and since the frequency of bites had noticeably decreased, Lu Qing knew it was time to call it quits. If he continued, he'd likely empty out the spot of its small fish. They needed some time to regather. With this thought, Lu Qing began to reel in his fishing rod, dumped the remaining few earthworms into the water, and picked up the bucket to head uphill. The kids on the slope, who had been watching, were already looking at him with great admiration. Seeing Lu Qing approach, they immediately surrounded him. They were in awe at the bucket full of small fish. "Lu Qing, you're amazing. You caught so many fish. So many fish. How long will it take to eat them all? So you really can catch fish with a bamboo pole? Brother, look at the fish. So many fish." Little Yen also came up to Lu Qing, jumping around excitedly, her little face flushed. "It's all right, just that the fish are a bit small," Lu Qing modestly said. After the kids had nearly exhausted their excitement, Lu Qing added, "You guys, help me carry this bucket of fish back home. Then, everyone will get a share." Lu Qing estimated that he had caught about 7 or 8 kilograms of fish. Adding the weight of the bucket and water, it was not light. He was still a bit weak, handling it momentarily was fine, but carrying it back to the village seemed a bit daunting. After all, so many fish, he and his siblings couldn't finish them in 1 or 2 meals. Small fish die easily, and there weren't many ways to preserve them at home. It was better to distribute a portion. Okay, Lu Qing. Hearing they would get a share of the fish, the kids got excited instantly. One grabbed one side of the bucket, and they easily lifted the whole bucket of fish. Those who couldn't find a spot nearly cried. Because of this, Lu Qing had to step in to mediate, letting them take turns, which finally calmed the quarrel. And so, the group, carrying a big bucket of fish, headed towards the village. Arriving in the village, because of the excited chatter of the kids, some villagers came out to see what was going on. And they were immediately surprised. Lu Qing actually caught fish, and so many? During the time Lu Qing went fishing, news of his recovery had also spread throughout the village. Many villagers knew he had gone to the river to fish, but no one expected him to catch so many at once. Looking at the bucket, there had to be at least 10 kilograms of fish. When had Lu Qing learned this trick? Suddenly, many villagers became curious, especially those who had also tried fishing by the river themselves. They were particularly eager to know what method Lu Qing had used to catch so many fish all at once. Driven by curiosity, some villagers couldn't help but follow him to Lu Qing's house. Chapter 6. Borrowing Grain. After Lu Qing got home, faced with the eager eyes of the little rascals, he didn't dawdle and started distributing the fish right away. He picked 2 banana leaves from behind the small courtyard and cut them into pieces. He gave each little rascal a handful of fish, no more than half a pound each, roughly. Although it wasn't much, the kids were thrilled. Having received the fish, each of them ran home gleefully as if they had obtained some treasure. Seeing that Lu Qing had finished distributing the fish, some villagers approached him. Lu Qing, how did you fish for these? How did you catch so many all at once? It was just luck. Lu Qing smiled. Perhaps it's because the bait I used is particularly attractive to the fish. What bait did you use? Just the common earthworm from the fields. Lu Qing didn't keep it a secret and told the truth. After all, even if he didn't say it, it wouldn't take long for people in the village to find out, especially since there were a bunch of little rascals watching him fish. If that was the case, it was better to be upfront about it rather than having others accuse him of being stingy. Earthworms? Can you actually use those for fishing? The villagers were amazed. Of course, and the fish really like them. Lu Qing was not surprised that the villagers didn't know earthworms could be used for fishing. From the original owner's memories, he speculated that he was now in a world similar to ancient China. In such an old and feudal era, transportation was inconvenient and information was scarce. People tended to be cautious and conservative towards new things and were not likely to try them easily. What is common knowledge in one place might become a rarity in another. It was normal that no one in the village excelled at fishing, so they didn't know that fish liked earthworms. I never knew fish liked to eat earthworms. No wonder everyone had little success fishing in the past. It was because we used the wrong bait, a villager exclaimed. Lu Qing, did your dad tell you this method? Lu Qing hesitated for a moment, then nodded. My dad mentioned it once, and I just remembered it. Today, little Yen kept saying she was hungry, and we had nothing to eat at home. So I thought of this method and decided to give it a try. I didn't expect to actually catch fish. Hearing this, that villager paused and then looked at little Yen. The little one was squatting by the bucket watching the fish, felt the villager's gaze, raised her head, and immediately flashed him a big smile. The villager's heart softened immediately, and he looked at the frail Lu Qing with pity. So what will you do next? You can't just eat fish all the time, can you? How could your stomach handle that? I was thinking of discussing this with a few uncles, Lu Qing said earnestly. The uncles know my family's current situation. We literally have no rice at home, so I wanted to borrow some grain and cooking essentials from them. After a few days, when I find some work, I will definitely return it double. What are you talking about? Do you think the uncles are the kind to kick you while you're down? We're all from the same village. It's only right to support each other. It's just a bit of grain. Uncle Shan will bring some to you right away. Moved, the villager spoke loudly. Having said this, the other villagers naturally felt compelled to offer their help too. Right? It's just a bit of grain. I'll go and get some for you right now. I bought extra salt at the market at the beginning of the month. I can spare some for you. It's just oil. We still have plenty at home. I'll go and get some for you in a bit. The villagers were thumping their chests in a generous manner. Lu Qing was overjoyed. Thank you so much, uncles. Lu Qing, hang on a minute. I'll go home and bring you some grain. Uncle Shan headed out immediately, and several other villagers also made their way home. Before long, they all gathered in Lu Qing's courtyard. Here, take this half bag of rice for you and little Yen to eat first. If you run out, ask Uncle Shan for more. Lu Qing, this half jar of lard should last you a while, right? Here's half a bamboo tube of salt for you to use. I've got a few flatbreads my wife baked this morning. They'll keep for a while. Eating one can stave off hunger for a long time. Will that be enough? Seeing the items the villagers brought, Lu Qing was inexplicably grateful. He bowed repeatedly. That's enough. That's enough. Thank you, uncles. After speaking, he scooped up several handfuls of small fish from the barrel and divided them into portions. With this, most of the fish in the wooden barrel were gone in an instant. This bit of fish, uncles. Take it back and give it a taste. Uncle Shan and the others waved their hands hurriedly. How can we do that? You just went through the effort to catch them. Keep them for yourself and little Yen. I can't eat all these fish by myself. And now that the weather is hot, the fish won't keep for long. Without chickens or ducks at home, the fish would just go bad. Just consider it helping me out so they don't go to waste. With no further discussion, Lu Qing stuffed the fish wrapped in leaves into the villagers' hands. Well, okay then, we won't stand on ceremony. The villagers had initially felt a pang of regret for giving away some of their stored grain, but having received the fish, they immediately felt much better. After seeing the uncles off, Lu Qing breathed a sigh of relief. He felt somewhat fortunate. Thank goodness the people in the village were simple and honest. Otherwise, he wouldn't dare ask for food so freely. With the food they now had, he and little Yen wouldn't have to worry about what to eat for the next 10 days or so. Having this buffer period, he could also properly explore ways to survive in this world. Brother, this pancake smells so good. Lu Qing was deep in thought when he suddenly heard little Yan's comment. Looking down, he saw the little one squatting on the ground, drooling over the flatbread one of the villagers had brought. He walked over, tore a small piece of the pancake, and placed it in little Yan's hand. Be good, little Yan, eat this piece of pancake. Your brother will cook some rice now. Okay. Little Yen understands. Little Yen obediently nodded, took the pancake, and happily started nibbling on it. Having calmed the little one, Lu Qing also started to get busy in the kitchen. He began by rinsing rice to steam it, then caught about half a pound of small fish, gutted and cleaned them. When he was ready to fry the fish, Lu Qing realized a problem. There was no pot in the kitchen to cook with. Recalling for a moment, he remembered. The house did have an iron pot before, but it had been sold by the previous occupant in exchange for food. So now the house only had a clay pot for cooking rice, but no pot for cooking meals. Sighing, Lu Qing had no choice but to find an alternative. Fetching a fairly flat, thin slab of stone from outside the yard, cleaning it thoroughly, and then slowly heating it over the fire. Once the stone slab was searing hot, Lu Qing carefully scooped a small spoonful of solidified lard from a clay jar brought by one of the villagers. The lard sizzled upon touching the hot stone slab, quickly melting down, instantly releasing a fragrant aroma of oil. Chapter 7, Full Belly, Contemplating the Path Ahead. Seeing that the oil was hot, Lu Qing started to carefully clip each small fish onto it and began to fry them slowly. Actually, it would have been better to add a little salt to the oil before frying, as that would prevent the fish from sticking to the bottom. But Lu Qing had noticed that the salt recently brought by that uncle had rather coarse grains and wasn't suitable for frying fish directly. Carefully controlling the heat, Lu Qing slowly fried the fish. The spreading aroma attracted little Yen, who had already finished her pancake, and she came over to sit, staring intently at the fish on the stone slab. Seeing her like this, Lu Qing's heart ached. He ruffled the little guy's hair. "Little Yen, just wait a bit longer, you'll be able to eat soon." "Okay." Little Yen obediently nodded. "Brother, the fishy fish smells so good. If it smells good, then eat a lot later. Brother caught so many fish today, enough for little Yen to have her fill." Once the rice in the clay pot was cooked, Lu Qing had also mostly finished frying the fish. He picked them up and placed them in a bowl. Then he poured some salt water over them. Just like that, a simple salt water fried fish was ready. Lu Qing served 2 bowls of rice and set them on the table. "Little Yen, it's time to eat." "I'm here, brother." The little guy had already been waiting at the dining table. Lu Qing added a small stool to the chair and then lifted little Yen onto it so she could reach her bowl. He then picked out a few small fish with little bones for her bowl. "Go ahead and eat, you little glutton. Remember to spit out the bones. Don't get pricked by them." "I know, brother." The little one had been so eager to eat that she immediately picked up a small fried fish and put it in her mouth, chewing quickly like a hamster. Lucky for her, Lu Qing had chosen fish with few bones, or else she would have definitely been pricked. After swallowing a small fish, little Yan's eyes suddenly widened. "Brother, this fish is so delicious, even better than what mother used to make." Upon hearing this, Lu Qing felt not joy but a wave of sadness instead. The fish was cooked with just a little oil and salt water, and even to save, he had dared not add more oil while frying. How delicious could such a fried fish be? In times of hunger, one finds everything tasty. Little Yen must have experienced much hunger during this time to find such a plain dish of saltwater fried fish to be such an exquisite delight. However, Lu Qing didn't show his feelings and just smiled. "Good to hear it's tasty. Eat more, little Yen." "MHM, MHM." The little one shoveled a big mouthful of rice and puffed out her cheeks, unable to speak, just nodding. Lu Qing laughed and also picked up a fish to eat. Having eaten a fish, he raised his eyebrows. The fish wasn't as bad as he had imagined. Perhaps it was because the ancient environment was unpolluted that the river fish were especially fine. Therefore, although modestly seasoned, the flesh of the small fried fish was fresh and delicious, with a unique flavor. Both siblings were so hungry that their eating speed couldn't possibly be slow. Soon, the rice in the clay pot and the bowl of small fried fish were all devoured by them. Of course, most of it ended up in Lu Qing's belly. No matter how hungry little Yen was, she was just a 6 or 7-year-old child with a limited appetite. And Lu Qing deliberately controlled it a bit to prevent her from eating too much at once and hurting her stomach. "Brother, little Yen is full." The little one put down her bowl, patted her belly, and wore a face full of satisfaction. Little Yen hadn't felt so full in a long time. "Once you're full, take a rest and don't run around. Elder brother will go wash the dishes first." Lu Qing instructed, then began to tidy up the bowls and chopsticks. "Little Yen will help elder brother." The little one jumped off the stool. "No need. Just sit here and rest." Lu Qing refused. So little Yen could only obediently sit on the stool and watch as Lu Qing bustled about. Children are prone to sleepiness. By the time Lu Qing had put everything away and came out, the little one's head was already nodding off little by little. Lu Qing smiled, gently picked up the little one, and walked toward the room. "Elder brother, little Yen wants to go fishing with you again next time." The fish was delicious. Just as Lu Qing put little Yen down on the bed, the little one mumbled sleepily, "Okay. Next time we fish, elder brother will take you with him." Lu Qing lovingly covered the little one with a patched quilt and said softly. It seemed as if she had heard her elder brother's promise. Little Yen didn't speak again and fell soundly asleep. After making sure the little one was asleep, Lu Qing quietly left the room and sat down on a simple lounge chair in the living room, feeling a wave of comfort. He had been busy today as well, his body just having recovered and still quite weak. Despite the hunger, he had done so much work, both fishing and cooking. To say he wasn't tired would be a lie. Now, lying on the lounge chair, he felt much more comfortable. He even felt a wave of sleepiness coming on. However, he couldn't sleep yet. There was still some thinking he needed to do. After a half-day of activities and interactions with the villagers, as well as the memories in his mind, Lu Qing had basically deduced what kind of environment he was in now. First, without a doubt, he was in a world similar to ancient China. Moreover, it was a time when the productivity levels were rather low. This could be seen from the fact that an iron pot could be considered a rarity. However, his knowledge was limited to this. There was a lot more information that Lu Qing couldn't confirm. For instance, the social structure of this world, the distribution of power, who the rulers were, he was clueless. He only knew that this world seemed to lack government institutions like a court or an official's office. At least in the original host's memory, there was no such concept. Of course, this wasn't absolute. After all, the original host was nothing more than a naive young man who had grown up without ever leaving the village. How big the outside world was, he had never considered, so how could he possess those concepts? Nevertheless, although it was uncertain whether there were courts or official offices, what was certain was that there were towns. The people in the village would go to the market in nearby towns to buy certain living supplies they needed. Items like salt and iron were normally only available in towns. And in these towns, the most powerful seemed to be the city lord. Unfortunately, although the original host was 15 years old, he had never been to the town, which prevented Lu Qing from knowing what the towns were really like. It seems that if I get the chance, I should make a trip to the town, Lu Qing murmured softly to himself. Only with a sufficient understanding of this world would he be able to decide which path to take in the future. Of course, thinking about this was still a bit far off for now. The most pressing matter was to find a way to provide for himself and little Yen. After all, today he had owed a lot of favors to the villagers, and these needed to be repaid. And currently, his greatest reliance was undoubtedly the superpower he possessed. What could his superpower do? Lu Qing pondered quietly. Suddenly, a name floated into his mind. Chapter 8 Old Dr. Chun, Astonishing Discovery. Lu Qing's mind conjured up the image of a kindly and lean elder. Old Dr. Chun. This elder doctor was the sole doctor serving several nearby villages. He was highly skilled in medicine. Though not a miracle worker, he could cure common ailments like headaches, fevers, bruises, and colds almost without fail. Therefore, he was deeply respected by the villagers nearby. It was said that even wealthy families in the town often requested his medical services. Such a figure undoubtedly held a special status in the village. Almost no villager dared to disrespect him. Previously, the original Lu Qing, a naive young boy with limited vision, had been indifferent to many things. However, after giving it some thought, Lu Qing discovered some anomalies. For instance, according to his memories, old Dr. Chun should have been quite old, yet he maintained a robust health and often ventured alone into the mountains to gather herbs. These were not the developed tourist spots from his past life but genuine, rugged mountains and primitive forests. They were filled with venomous insects and snakes, and fierce animals. Their numbers unknown, making them extremely dangerous. Even experienced hunters did not dare to venture too deeply into these woods. For an old man like old Dr. Chun to enter and leave these places safely was truly unusual. Lu Qing was very curious about his abilities. It would be wonderful if he could learn even a fraction of old Dr. Chen's medical skills. His superpower allowed him to see the basic information of all things. When it came to identifying herbs, it was foolproof. Perfectly complemented medical skills. If he could learn some of old Dr. Chen's skills, it would provide some security for his and little Yan's future. However, how could he learn from old Dr. Chen? As Lu Qing pondered this, his eyelids began to droop uncontrollably. His body was weak, and he couldn't resist the overwhelming fatigue. Eventually, before falling asleep, Lu Qing couldn't think of any good methods. Unexpectedly, before he could figure out a way to approach old Dr. Chun came to him. Lying on a reclining chair, Lu Qing fell asleep. In his drowsy state, he seemed to hear someone talking, followed by the sensation of someone grabbing his hand. He woke up abruptly. Lu Qing, you're awake. Old Dr. Chun is treating you. A loud voice rang out. Lu Qing recognized the voice. It seemed to be that of old Zhang from next door, which initially relieved him. Then, he snapped back to full awareness and opened his eyes. Old Dr. Chun? Turning his head, he saw two elders, one standing and the other sitting. The seated one, lean and kindly-faced, could only be old Dr. Chun. Don't move. Let me take your pulse first. Seeing Lu Qing about to get up, old Dr. Chun spoke gently. Lu Qing immediately froze. That's when he realized that old Dr. Chen's hand was on his wrist. No wonder he felt someone grabbing his hand in his daze. It turned out old Dr. Chun was taking his pulse. Seeing old Dr. Chun close his eyes to concentrate on the pulse, Lu Qing didn't dare to move and continued to lie obediently on the reclining chair. Knowing that the pulse-taking wouldn't be over quickly, Lu Qing couldn't help but scrutinize this somewhat mysterious old Dr. Chun. His first impression was that the elder doctor seemed gentler than he remembered, his lean figure exuding an almost celestial composure. It was instantly reassuring to behold. But at this moment, his expression was serious, his brows furrowed as if encountering some difficulty. Lu Qing quietly observed old Dr. Chun for a while, and suddenly, he saw a faint red light emerge around the elder. Chun Songqing, skilled in medicine, kind-hearted, respected, a fine elder physician. Cultivation. Achieved in Qi cultivation, postnatal internal realm. What is this? Lu Qing's eyes suddenly widened, not only because of the faint red light emanating from the elder doctor's body, but even more so because of the description in the text that followed. Since regaining consciousness, Lu Qing had gradually deciphered some patterns in his superpower. Ordinary objects, when examined with his superpower, typically showed a gray light. More special items like medicinal herbs would display a white light. But humans, without exception, all showed white light. At least that was the case with everyone he met in the village. However, the strength of the white light varied. Adults showed the strongest, followed by adolescents, and the elderly showed the least. Lu Qing speculated that this might be related to a person's vigor or life energy. After all, generally speaking, adults have the most energy while the elderly have the least. But elder Dr. Chen's presence overturned his understanding. What appeared was a red light, something he had never seen before. More importantly was the content of the text that popped up afterward. Cultivation, successful Qi cultivation, postnatal internal realm? What did this mean? Could it be that the world he was in was not what he thought, similar to the ancient world of Huaxia country, but a more mysterious world where cultivation was possible? Lu Qing's heart was disrupted by this sudden change. Just as he wanted to continue observing and gain more information from the elder Dr. Chun suddenly opened his eyes. Seeing Lu Qing's flustered and shocked expression, elder Dr. Chun frowned for a moment, then his face relaxed. He said gently, "Don't be afraid. I was merely taking your pulse. It was a misunderstanding." He thought his serious demeanor while taking the pulse had frightened Lu Qing. Seizing the opportunity to compose himself, Lu Qing asked somewhat anxiously, "Grandpa Chun, how is my illness? Is it all better now?" Beside them, old Master Zhang also looked expectantly at elder Dr. Chun. Elder Dr. Chun pondered for a moment and said, "Not bad. Your illness has indeed recovered, although you are still a bit weak. Proper recuperation should render you almost completely unhindered." "Really? That's wonderful. Lu Qing, you should thank elder Dr. Chun quickly. If it wasn't for the medicine he prescribed, you might not have woken up at all," exclaimed old Master Zhang joyfully. "Thank you, Grandpa Chun." Lu Qing got up from the recliner and attempted to kneel and kowtow as a sign of gratitude. After all, the elder doctor indeed owed him a life-saving debt. If not for that bowl of medicinal soup, he might not have survived the period of memory integration. This alone was worth his deep respect. However, elder Dr. Chun stopped Lu Qing. "There's no need for such formalities. Your awakening is also due to your own fortune." This old man merely provided a little help. Elder Dr. Chen's words were not out of modesty. In fact, he was still extraordinarily astonished. He had indeed visited when Lu Qing fell ill. At that time, Lu Qing was severely afflicted. His energy as fine as a thread and his condition was critical, reduced to his last breath. Even if a real master of medicine had come, it would have likely been difficult to save him. Embodying the spirit of medical benevolence, he still prepared a prescription adding many precious ingredients. His aim was merely to fulfill his duty, then leave the rest to fate. Some of the ingredients he added were even reserved by nobles from the city. Because of this, he had to hurry to the mountains the next day to gather herbs to replenish what was used. He had thought that Lu Qing would not make it, but when he returned from gathering herbs, he heard from the villagers that Lu Qing's illness had improved. Not only could he get out of bed and walk, but he could even go to the river to catch fish. Astonished, he immediately wanted to check on him. Arriving outside the courtyard, he encountered old Master Zhang returning from working in the fields, so they entered the house together. Initially, he suspected the villagers had exaggerated. Now, having taken Lu Qing's pulse, he found there was no exaggeration in the villagers' words. Lu Qing's illness had genuinely completely healed. Aside from still being somewhat weak, the previous symptoms had miraculously disappeared. This left Elder Dr. Chun immensely surprised. Chapter 9 Opportunities. Could it be that I misjudged yesterday? Looking at the confused face of Lu Qing, old Dr. Chun doubted his medical skills for the first time. But he quickly dismissed the thought from his mind. He still had confidence in his medical skills. Lu Qing was indeed critically ill yesterday. He couldn't have misdiagnosed that. As to why Lu Qing had recovered overnight, it could only be said that there must be another mystery. It was just a mystery he couldn't unravel. Old Dr. Chun pondered but still couldn't figure it out. In the end, he could only attribute it to Lu Qing having an auspicious fate, his life not yet meant to end. He also sighed to himself that his medical skill was still not precise enough to unravel the many mysteries of the human body. If he possessed the abilities of an innate grandmaster, who could perceive the most minute details, perhaps he could have understood how Lu Qing recovered. Thinking this, old Dr. Chun looked at Lu Qing and suddenly said, "Lu Qing, although your condition has improved, your body is still somewhat weak. How about this? Starting from tomorrow, come to my place every 3 days. I'll give you a few acupuncture sessions to strengthen your foundation and nurture your vitality." Before Lu Qing could respond, Grandpa Zhang, who was next to him, was already overjoyed. "Lu Qing, aren't you going to thank old Dr. Chun? He rarely offers to give acupuncture to anyone." Lu Qing hesitated a moment, "But I currently have nothing of value at home. I'm afraid I can't afford the medical fee." "You don't need to pay," old Dr. Chun said. "Your recovery this time is somewhat peculiar, and there might still be some hidden dangers that I cannot diagnose. Giving you acupuncture will also help me confirm my medical theories. It's beneficial for me as well." Hearing old Dr. Chun put it that way, Lu Qing could only express his gratitude. Then, "Thank you very much, Grandpa Chun." It just so happened that he was also worried about not having the chance to get close to old Dr. Chun. Now, he had a reason. As for how his illness was cured, truthfully, even he himself wasn't clear. Perhaps it was due to the integration of memories that incidentally cured his illness. Or perhaps it was his superpower that healed him. Anyway, he didn't think old Dr. Chun would be able to diagnose it. Moreover, he didn't feel any malice from the elder doctor towards him, and with the superpower within him, he was quite confident. Given that, why wouldn't he be happy to have a skilled elder doctor help condition his body? Seeing that Lu Qing had agreed, old Dr. Chun also showed a smile. He had immersed himself in medical skill his whole life, and it was rare to encounter a case that he couldn't understand, which made him curious about Lu Qing's body. After all, helping Lu Qing condition his body was just a simple effort for him. If it could lead to some gains in his medical skills, he would be very pleased. "I'm going to head back now. Remember to come over for acupuncture tomorrow morning." After seeing Lu Qing, old Dr. Chun was ready to leave. The herbs he had gathered today still needed to be dried promptly. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to prepare them in time for an important person. "Grandpa Chun, Grandpa Zhang, wait a moment." Seeing the two elders about to leave, Lu Qing quickly got up, ran into the kitchen, and brought out 2 bowls of small fish. "Grandpa Chun, Grandpa Zhang, I caught these fish this morning. If you don't mind, please take some home to try. Grandpa Zhang looked at the 2 bowls of small fish. When I was coming back, I heard people in the village talking about your fishing. Lu Qing, is this method of fishing with earthworms something your father left behind? Yes. It's something my father mentioned to me before. Lu Qing had become quite adept at using this excuse. Are you confused? Grandpa Zhang was unexpectedly distressed. Since it was a technique left by your father, you should have kept it a secret. How could you let everyone in the village know? If they all go fishing and empty the river of fish, what will you and little Yen eat? It's fine, Grandpa Zhang. With me here, little Yen won't starve, Lu Qing said nonchalantly. Fishing wasn't such a simple matter. If knowing one bait was all it took to catch fish at will, there wouldn't have been so many airheads in his previous life. Moreover, he was well aware of nature's regenerative capabilities. Relying solely on wild fishing, it was impossible to deplete the river of its fish. But how could Grandpa Zhang know these things? Seeing Lu Qing's indifferent demeanor, he became a bit agitated but was helpless. In the end, all he could do was sigh. You'll understand when you suffer the consequences. Beside them, old Dr. Chun did not express any opinions on the matter. These were trivial matters to him, not worth his concern. On the other hand, he was somewhat pleased with the fish Lu Qing had brought out. He certainly knew the current situation of the Lu family. This small fish was probably the only thing Lu Qing could offer. It might even be his and his sister's food for the next few days. Yet he willingly offered it. This showed that Lu Qing was a grateful child. No one dislikes such a youth. Therefore, old Dr. Chun did not refuse Lu Qing's gift. Even Grandpa Zhang, wanting Lu Qing to experience a bit of heartache, deliberately took another bowl of fish. After seeing the 2 elders out and watching them walk away, Lu Qing returned to his house. Once he was sure there was no one nearby, he let out a deep sigh and his heart started pounding violently. The events in the house seemed mundane, but his heart had been in his throat several times. On one hand, he feared revealing that he was not the original owner of this body. On the other hand, he was shocked by the information revealed by old Dr. Chun. Fortunately, the idea of soul fusion and reincarnation was too mysterious. Nobody would think in that direction. Plus, having the memories of the original owner, he deliberately disguised himself and managed to stabilize his emotions without raising suspicion. Having passed this ordeal, his identity had become even more secure. He believed that in a few days, even if his personality changed, no one would doubt that he wasn't the original Lu Qing. After all, it's normal for young people's characters to be inconsistent, and he had experienced the huge change of losing his parents and had walked through the gate of hell. A change in character was more than justified. Thus, although the sudden visit by old Dr. Chun and Grandpa Zhang caught Lu Qing off guard, it had also presented him with an opportunity. The information revealed by old Dr. Chun made Lu Qing realize that his previous guesses about this world might have been wrong. He thought he was in a world similar to ancient China. He assumed that everyone in this world was just an ordinary person like him. However, just now, he had seen information beyond common sense on the elder doctor. Cultivation, qi cultivation, realm, these were things belonging to a world of martial heroes and mysteries, where beings could move incredibly and have extraordinary powers. Could it be that he had transgressed into such a world? Lu Qing's emotions suddenly became complicated. He felt apprehensive, confused, and also expectant.
Chapter 10 Discovering Cultivation Technique.
He suddenly realized that he had been reborn into a world possibly possessing extraordinary powers. Lu Qing's heart was both joyful and shocked. The joy stemmed from, as a Chinese person, an inexplicable longing for a life of chivalry and roaming the world with a sword. The shock was that, in a world where one could amass great power in oneself and give rise to powerful individuals, danger was much more prevalent than in ordinary worlds. So-called heroes often break the law with their martial skills. Once an individual grasped significant power, they could easily become dismissive of various rules. It wasn't uncommon for the strong to anger and the weak to suffer resentment. At present, he was a weakling incapable of trussing a chicken. If, one day, he carelessly encountered an evil person knowledgeable in cultivation, it's feared he could be easily annihilated. Thinking of this, Lu Qing couldn't help but feel a sense of danger. He needed to change some of his original ideas. Lu Qing again fell into deep thought, slowly mulling over his plans in his mind. The next morning, Lu Qing cooked a pot of river shrimp porridge and then woke little Yen, the siblings enjoying the porridge together. "Brother, the shrimp porridge tastes so good." The little one slurped noisily, looked up with her face still dabbed with a grain of porridge, and happily said to Lu Qing, "It's good you like it. Drink slowly and don't choke." Lu Qing reached out to remove the bit of porridge from her mouth. "Brother, are we going fishing today?" little Yen asked. "We're not going fishing today. After we finish eating, we're going to Grandpa Chen's place." Now that their immediate food needs were met, Lu Qing wasn't planning to fish in the next few days. Also, the fish on yesterday's fishing spot had been significantly reduced by his efforts and would probably need some time to recover. As for the remaining 2 fishing spots, the rudimentary fishing rod might be challenging to manage. Before he could make a better fishing rod, Lu Qing didn't intend to fish at those 2 spots. There was no way around it, they were too poor. Every bit of resource was precious and couldn't afford his wastefulness. Going to Grandpa Chen's place? Little Yan's eyes lit up. The little one had been asleep all of yesterday and didn't know about the visit from Elder Dr. Chen and Elder Zhang. Do you want to go?" Lu Qing asked. Generally, kids are naturally scared of figures like doctors, and Lu Qing wasn't sure if little Yen felt the same. "I want to," the little one said earnestly. "Grandpa Chen is so nice. He cured brother's illness, and little Yen hasn't thanked him yet." Lu Qing smiled. "Right, let's go thank Grandpa Chen together." After finishing the porridge, Lu Qing locked the door and set out with little Yen. Elder Dr. Chen didn't reside in the village but lived halfway up a small mountain behind the village. Walking on the road with little Yen, he saw from afar a solitary small courtyard faintly visible halfway up the mountain, looking quite picturesque. Upon reaching halfway up the mountain, Lu Qing saw a figure moving in front of the yard. He was about to speak when he suddenly closed his mouth. He also pulled on little Yen, gesturing her to keep silent, because he noticed that Elder Dr. Chen now didn't seem to be in a state to be disturbed. Elder Dr. Chen was practicing his boxing. Lu Qing didn't recognize the type. To him, it somewhat resembled the Tai Chi boxing practiced by the elderly in parks in his previous life. The moves were slow and gentle. However, after watching for a while, Lu Qing noted the differences. Though Elder Dr. Chen's moves seemed soft, each move seemed to carry a breeze and flowed naturally. Quite a beautiful sight. Just as Lu Qing was getting somewhat captivated, suddenly, a row of text popped up in his field of vision. "Discover cultivation technique? Do you wish to simulate?" Lu Qing's pupils suddenly constricted. His superpower had such a function. He glanced at old Dr. Chen, who was still deeply immersed in his boxing, and Lu Qing forcefully calmed his wildly beating heart as he silently chose yes in his mind. Simulation initiated, current progress 1%, 2%, 3%. Watching the progress bar silently increasing in his field of view, Lu Qing's heartbeat involuntarily quickened again. He hadn't expected that his superpower could simulate other people's cultivation techniques. Just yesterday, he had been frustrated about not being able to access the cultivation methods of this world. This was truly a case of finding a pillow when feeling sleepy. Lu Qing intently watched old Dr. Chen's movements, while simultaneously keeping an eye on the simulation progress of the cultivation technique. 48%, 49%, 50%. When the cultivation technique simulation progress reached 50%, Lu Qing found it had stopped and the progress bar disappeared. Looking across, he saw that old Dr. Chen had already finished his boxing. Lu Qing inwardly lamented. If he had come a bit earlier, he might have been able to fully simulate old Dr. Chen's boxing method. Now, being stuck halfway was quite uncomfortable. However, Lu Qing just briefly regretted it before he adjusted his mindset. Being able to discover another function of his superpower during this visit was already a great gain. As for old Dr. Chen's cultivation technique, there would be plenty of time in the future. There was no need to rush. Old Dr. Chen finished his boxing session and had just turned to look at Lu Qing and his sister. In fact, he had known of the siblings' presence from the start. It was just that practicing in the morning was already a habit, so he hadn't stopped. "Have you two eaten breakfast yet?" Old Dr. Chen asked warmly. "We have," Lu Qing respectfully replied. Little Yen stepped forward and grabbed old Dr. Chen's hand. "Grandpa Chen, thank you for curing my brother's illness. Hee, little one, the one you should thank is yourself. If you hadn't cried so hard that day, I wouldn't have come inside to see what was going on." Old Dr. Chen stroked little Yan's head, somewhat moved. That day, he was wandering around the village and happened to hear little Yan's cries. Unable to bear it, he went inside to check and discovered how seriously ill Lu Qing was. "Why thank little Yan? It was Grandpa Chen who cured my brother's illness," the little one said, slightly puzzled. "It's not entirely my credit. Your brother getting better is also because he has a good fate," old Dr. Chen sighed. Yesterday, after returning home, he had checked the medical books again and still hadn't found any records of Lu Qing's illness. Ultimately, it all came down to Lu Qing's good luck and having a good fate. Little Yen didn't understand old Dr. Chen's words and could only nod her head vaguely. Only then did Lu Qing realize that there was this additional reason for old Dr. Chen treating him. He affectionately looked at little Yen and bowed deeply to old Dr. Chen again. "Thank you, Grandpa Chen, for saving my life. Never mind, never mind." Old Dr. Chen ultimately waved his hand, deciding not to explain further, because he knew that even if he explained further, Lu Qing and his sister would still believe it was he who cured the illness. Since that was so, why bother with more explanations? "Grandpa Chen, what were you doing just now? Practicing boxing?" At this moment, little Yen asked innocently. Lu Qing also looked towards old Dr. Chen. Chapter 11, Herbs, Acupuncture. "How come, little Yen? Could you tell that Grandpa Chen was doing boxing?" Old Dr. Chen chuckled. "I couldn't tell." Little Yen shook her head. "It was brother who said that Grandpa Chen was practicing boxing, telling me not to talk and disturb you." "I'm sorry, Grandpa Chen. We didn't know you were practicing," Lu Qing said apologetically. "It doesn't matter. What I was practicing can barely be called a boxing technique. It was simply a stretching routine." The elder doctor waved his hand dismissively. "But I think Grandpa Chen looked very graceful," little Yen said earnestly. Ha, old man that I am, having practiced this set of boxing my whole life. Now to receive praise from a little fellow like you, it's all been worth it." Hearing little Yan's naive words, old Dr. Chen laughed heartily. Seeing the elder doctor so happy, Lu Qing's heart also relaxed. He had indeed been a bit afraid that the elder doctor had some rule against watching him practice boxing. If that were the case, he and his sister would have broken a taboo. "Come on, let's go inside. I'll give you an acupuncture treatment first." Old Dr. Chen lifted little Yen and said to Lu Qing. Lu Qing respectfully followed the elder doctor towards the yard. Upon entering the yard, he was captivated by all the medicinal herbs drying there. He glanced around and recognized one of them, cow bone grass, which also grew in his own yard. Unfortunately, he didn't have enough time to identify each medicinal herb. "Grandpa Chen, are all these dried items in the yard medicinal herbs?" Lu Qing inquired. "Indeed, why? Can you recognize medicinal herbs?" Old Dr. Chen was a bit surprised. "Not really," Lu Qing replied. "I just noticed that there's a type of herb here, which seems to grow near our home as well." "Which one?" "The one drying in that winnowing basket." Lu Qing pointed in a direction. Seeing the blue flowers on the herb, little Yen also nodded repeatedly. Yes, there are a lot of them growing outside our house, and Nyo likes to eat them too." The elder doctor glanced at it. "That's right, that's cow bone grass, indeed a very common medicinal herb." "Cow bone grass." Lu Qing repeated the name, then asked, "Grandpa Chen, what is cow bone grass usually used for?" "It's mainly used to treat injuries from falls and blows," old Dr. Chen replied casually, then looked at Lu Qing. Why? Are you interested in medicinal herbs? Yes, Lu Qing replied honestly. Little Yen mentioned that her illness was cured by a prescription from you, Grandpa Chen. This makes me think that medicinal herbs are truly miraculous. They are mere flowers and plants, yet they can relieve pain and save lives. If you want to learn about herbs, it's not easy. Studying medicine requires not only boldness and attention to detail, but also a clear mind. Moreover, you need to be literate and understand medical texts. The elder doctor did not mock Lu Qing's aspirations. Instead, he patiently explained. I do know some characters, Lu Qing quickly said. That statement wasn't false. In his memory, the original owner of the body did recognize some characters, and those characters, upon verification, were almost similar to the characters from his past life, only more complicated in their strokes. You know how to read? Old Dr. Chen was surprised again. In this rural area, finding someone who could read was not easy. Lu Qing was just an orphan, yet he knew how to read? When my paternal grandfather was alive, he taught me some characters. Unfortunately, I was slow and forgot some after my grandfather passed away. Moreover, I can only recognize them. I can't write. Old Dr. Chan then realized the situation in Lu Qing's family. There were rumors that Lu Qing's grandfather had been a down-and-out scholar. He had come here with the villagers fleeing a famine. Before he secluded himself here, he had already passed away, denying him the chance to meet. Furthermore, he had heard from the villagers that Lu Qing's father had a restless nature, unsuited for scholarly pursuits, and often infuriated his grandfather as a youth, ultimately failing to continue his studies. Unexpectedly, it was the young Lu Qing who could recognize some characters. Unfortunately, Lu Qing's grandfather passed away early. Otherwise, perhaps the Lu family might have produced another scholar. Old Dr. Chun sighed again silently, looking at Lu Qing with even gentler eyes. No wonder he felt that Lu Qing's speech was unlike that of a typical rural youth, probably influenced by the teachings of his grandfather and father. Since you're interested in medicinal herbs, from now on, each time you come for acupuncture, I'll allow you to help me air the herbs for half an hour, and how much you can remember will depend on your own understanding. And you? Old Dr. Chun patted little Yan's head. You should come with your brother too. Grandpa Chen will cook some medicinal cuisine for you. With such a frail body, how can it be all right? Lu Qing was overjoyed and hurriedly expressed his thanks. Thank you, Grandpa Chen. Little Yen, aren't you going to thank Grandpa Chen? Thank you, Grandpa Chen. Although the little one didn't understand what medicinal cuisine was, since her brother said so, she obediently expressed her thanks. What's there to thank me for? Seeing such a frail little body, Grandpa Chun feels pity too, the elder doctor said compassionately. Once inside the house, the elder doctor put little Yen down and took out a needle bag. He said to Lu Qing, "Go to the bed and take off your shirt." Lu Qing did as told, took off his shirt, and then lay down on the wooden bed beside him. Seeing his gaunt chest, old Dr. Chun fell silent for a moment before he drew a silver needle from the needle bag. Little Yen, seeing such a long silver needle, showed a hint of fear on her face. However, she knew Grandpa Chun was treating her brother and, though scared, stayed quietly in place without fussing. Don't be afraid and don't move. I'm going to start the acupuncture now, the elder doctor told Lu Qing. Lu Qing nodded. He wasn't scared. In his past life on Blue Star, he had also experienced traditional Chinese acupuncture, so he was quite familiar with it. The elder doctor twirled the silver needle, gently aiming for a particular acupoint on Lu Qing. And Lu Qing didn't feel any pain as the needle penetrated 3 points into his flesh. Upon completing the first needle insertion, old Dr. Chan didn't hesitate and immediately took another silver needle from the bag, aiming for another channel point. Before long, 18 silver needles had been inserted into various acupoints on Lu Qing's upper body. As for little Yen, she had already covered her eyes, unable to watch her brother being pricked like a hedgehog. With the 18th silver needle inserted, this time old Dr. Chun didn't immediately let go of the needle. Instead, he held the tail of the needle and gently twirled it. Instantly, something marvelous happened. Lu Qing felt a warm current flowing under the needle. It was tingling and very comfortable. At the same time, a wave of sleepiness overcame him. His eyelids began to feel heavy, and he soon fell asleep. "Grandpa Chen, has my brother fallen asleep?" Little Yen covered her face, peeking through her fingers. "Yes, your brother is very weak. This strengthening needle will let him have a good sleep." "Oh," Little Yen responded. Grandpa Chen was saying things she didn't understand again. "Let's go. Let your brother sleep here for a while and we'll go outside." The elder doctor stood up. "Where are we going?" "Grandpa Chen will make you something delicious." Chapter 12 Yam Cake Silk Threads. When Lu Qing awoke from his deep slumber, the first sound he heard was Little Yan's joyful laughter. He looked at himself and noticed the silver needles were gone, replaced by a thin blanket covering his body. He had no idea how long he had slept. Lu Qing thought to himself as he threw off the blanket and put on his upper garment, then stepped outside. In the courtyard, he saw old Dr. Chun sitting at a stone table with Little Yen. He couldn't tell what they were discussing, but both were laughing heartily. Especially Little Yen who, holding a piece of white pastry, looked particularly happy. "Brother, you're awake." Little Yen, giggling, was surprised to see Lu Qing emerge from the house. She hopped down from the stone bench with a thud and passed the pastry to Lu Qing. "Brother, look, this is a yam cake made by Grandpa Chen. It's really tasty. Do you want a piece?" Lu Qing did not take the pastry but turned to old Dr. Chun. "Grandpa Chun, I hope Little Yen hasn't been causing you any trouble?" Old Dr. Chun waved his hand dismissively. "Not at all. Little Yan's innocence and cheerfulness make me quite happy. How are you feeling after just waking up?" "I feel very good." Lu Qing moved his body slightly. "It feels like I've suddenly gained a lot of strength." "Grandpa Chen, am I fully recovered now?" "Don't be so naive," the elder doctor chuckled. "You were quite depleted with a weak foundation. You need to slowly recuperate to fully recover. The strengthening needle I applied only temporarily stimulated your primordial qi, which is why you feel an illusion of increased strength. You'll need to continue with medicinal diet to replenish your body's deficiencies and recover fully. Here, have some of these yam cakes. Not only did I make them for Little Yen, but for you as well. Try a few pieces. Yam is good for nourishing the spleen and lungs, as well as fortifying the kidneys and essence, which is exactly what you need." The elder doctor pushed the plate of pristine yam cakes forward on the stone table, gesturing for Lu Qing to take some. Lu Qing gazed at the plate of yam cakes with hesitation. "Grandpa Chun, these yam cakes must be quite precious, right?" "Not particularly precious. They're rare to find outside, but the mountains here have plenty. They're not too difficult to find, and I still have some stored. Please, go ahead and eat." Elder Dr. Chan noted Lu Qing's reservations and reassured him with a warm voice. He made it sound easy, but Lu Qing knew better. Everyone was aware of the dangers in the mountain forests. It was the herb gatherer's skill that brought these yams. To regard these yam cakes as trivial would be overly naive. Nonetheless, he realized that if Elder Dr. Chun had come this far in offering, it would be too pedantic for him to refuse. So, he gave Elder Dr. Chun a deep bow and expressed his gratitude. "Then I deeply thank you, Grandpa Chun." After saying so, he sat down beside the stone table and began to eat a piece of yam cake. The cake was soft and fragrantly sweet, very delicious. Even for someone like Lu Qing who had tasted various modern pastries in his previous life, he found it exceptionally tasty. He focused on the cake in the plate, and as he did so, a white glow and a string of words appeared. Yam cake, a pastry made primarily with yam. Good for fortifying the spleen and lungs, strengthening the kidneys and vital essence. It seems to have significant restorative effects. Superpower's evaluation echoed exactly the effects old Dr. Chun had mentioned. "Brother, isn't it delicious?" asked Little Yen with pride. "Indeed, it's very tasty." Lu Qing nodded honestly. Master Chun kept an eye on Lu Qing and saw that after he had eaten a few pieces of the yam cake, he stopped, prompting Master Chun to nod to himself internally. Despite being hungry, He maintained his manners in front of the delectable food, without giving in to gluttony. Lu Qing's performance had satisfied him quite a bit. In the past, he had not noticed that there was such a special youth in the village. However, it was still a bit too early to draw conclusions. He needed to observe for a while longer. Thinking of the idea that had come to him during Lu Qing's fainting spell, old Dr. Chun pondered for a moment. Then he said, "Lu Qing, you mentioned an interest in medicinal herbs. Do you want to learn medicine?" "I wouldn't dare to speak blindly of learning medicine," Lu Qing quickly responded. "I've merely witnessed the wonder of medicinal herbs and am drawn to it. Grandpa Chun is also aware that my family has suffered misfortune, with both parents passed on, and our household is as poor as can be. Relying solely on those 2 meager acres of land, it's really hard to get by. That's why I thought, if I could learn a bit about identifying and gathering herbs, perhaps I could use that skill to support my sister and myself." "Gathering herbs is indeed a way out," old Dr. Chun nodded. "But this path is not easy either. There are many dangers in the mountains, and becoming a skilled herb gatherer is not so simple. One has to try to know, and besides, what work in this world is easy?" "True. There is no work in this world that's easy," old Dr. Chun approved. "It's rare to see someone with your understanding. If that's the case, then starting from the next time, after you're done with your acupuncture, stay and help me dry the herbs. How much you remember will depend on your perceptiveness." "Thank you, Grandpa Chin." Although he had heard the elder doctor mention this before, hearing it again still filled Lu Qing with joy. "Grandpa Chin, why can't you teach my brother today?" little Yen asked. The little one had been listening for a while and seemed to have understood a bit. "Today won't do," old Dr. Chin laughed. "Today, Grandpa Chin has to make a trip into town and doesn't have that much time." "Into town?" A thought stirred in Lu Qing's heart, but he held back. His behavior today had already been somewhat out of line. It wouldn't be appropriate to pry further. After all, even if he knew what was happening in the city now, it wouldn't be of much use to him. However, little Yen had no such reservations. Hearing that old Dr. Chun was going into town, she immediately widened her curious eyes. "Grandpa Chin, what's it like in the city?" "The city, well, that's not something one can describe in a moment. When little Yen grows up, you can go see for yourself. The city is much better than the countryside in ways you wouldn't believe." Little Yan's face immediately lit up with longing. Even Lu Qing was surprised. From the elder doctor's words, the city seemed to indeed hold some sort of mystery. The 3 chatted for a while longer before the elder doctor stood up. "All right, you should head back now. I need to prepare myself for the trip into town. Lu Qing, remember to come back for another strengthening needle in 3 days." Seeing the elder doctor getting ready to leave, Lu Qing hesitated for a moment but then said, "Grandpa Chan, there's something I wish to ask you about." "Oh, what is that?" "I would like to ask about a type of thread. One that's very strong and not prone to snapping." "Thread? What do you need it for?" Lu Qing weighed his words carefully before speaking. "Yesterday, I went fishing by the river, and I realized that I might have some talent for angling. However, the fishing rods made from hemp thread at home aren't very sturdy. If I apply a bit of force, the line tends to break, preventing me from catching big fish. So I wanted to ask Master Chun if there is any type of thread that's particularly strong and suitable for making a better fishing rod." Strong thread. The elder doctor fell into thought upon hearing Lu Qing's words. Suddenly, as if remembering something, he walked toward the house. "Wait here for me." Chapter 13. A familiar scene. The elder doctor had gone into the house, and soon came out again, holding a small box in his hand. "Take this with you." The elder doctor handed the box to Lu Qing. "What is this?" Lu Qing opened the box, only to find inside a small bundle of nearly transparent white thread. "This thread," the elder doctor said, "was given to me years ago when I was traveling abroad. I saved an injured swordsman, and it's what he gave to me in gratitude. I don't know exactly what it is, only that this thread is exceptionally strong and not easily broken. It should meet your needs for making a fishing line." "Grandpa Chin, this is too precious. I can't accept it." Lu Qing said, quickly pushing the object back when he heard this. Gifts given in gratitude for a saved life were bound to be out of the ordinary, and Lu Qing didn't dare take it lightly. However, hearing the word swordsman did stir something in him. This world indeed had such extraordinary figures. Elder Dr. Chun did not take it back. He waved his hand and said, "Just keep it. It's of no use to me. It has been in my possession for more than 10 years. I've never had a use for it. If you hadn't mentioned it, I would have even forgotten I had such a thing. Since you need a strong thread to make a fishing line, you might as well use it. That way, it serves its purpose instead of gathering dust at my place. If you feel unworthy of it, just bring me some of the good catch you make someday. That little fish yesterday had a fine flavor, suitable to accompany a drink." Holding the box, Lu Qing felt both grateful and ashamed. The elder doctor had treated him and his sister so well, and yet he had been thinking about stealthily learning the physician's cultivation technique, which was truly shameful. Looking at the box in his hands, Lu Qing silently made a decision. In the days to come, unless Elder Dr. Chun took the initiative to teach him, he would absolutely not try to emulate the elder doctor's cultivation technique again. "Don't worry, Grandpa Chun. If I catch anything good in the future, I will definitely bring it to you first thing," Lu Qing said earnestly, gripping the small box tightly. The elder doctor broke into a hearty laugh. "Haha, then I'll look forward to it." Exiting the elder doctor's home, Lu Qing's heart was racing with excitement. Today's gains had been immense. Not only had he earned the elder doctor's favor and received treatment, but he had also landed an opportunity to be taught how to identify medicinal herbs. And on top of that, he had acquired a box of mysterious thread. Intuition told Lu Qing that the thread Elder Dr. Chun had given him was no ordinary item. However, in front of the elder doctor earlier, it wouldn't have been good to keep staring at the thread. Else he would have tried using his superpower to discover its secrets. Descending the mountain with little Yen and returning to the village, Lu Qing saw several villagers carrying bamboo poles and buckets, chatting and laughing as they came back from the village entrance. Upon seeing Lu Qing, they started shouting from afar, "Lu Qing! Uncle Shi! Have you just come back from fishing?" Lu Qing inquired, noticing the poles on the shoulders of the villagers. "Yes," said the villager Lu Qing called Uncle Shi, speaking with some excitement. "Didn't we listen to your advice yesterday about using earthworms for fishing? Early this morning, Dashin and I dug up some earthworms and tried them out by the river. Your method really works. Just look at our catch for today." With that, he showed Lu Qing the bucket he was carrying. Lu Qing saw that the bucket did contain quite a few fish, around 1 or 2 pounds worth. Some were even bigger than the ones he had caught yesterday. After looking at the buckets of several other villagers, he saw that each of them had a decent catch, the smallest amount being 1/2 pound of fish. One villager was particularly lucky, having caught a fish that weighed over 1 pound. But the villager was also annoyed. "I had hooked an even bigger one before, but the fish was so strong that it snapped my hemp line, and I couldn't even find the hook anymore. I told you not to pull so hard, to ease it a bit, but you had to arm wrestle with it. It's no wonder the line broke," another villager criticized. "How could I have known that the fish would be so strong? I'm sure it was at least 5 pounds. Come on, at most it was 2 pounds. If it were 5 pounds, you wouldn't have been able to hold on to it from the start. It was definitely 5 pounds. Listening to the villagers argue about the size of the big fish they failed to land, Lu Qing couldn't help but chuckle. He was all too familiar with this scene. In his previous life, when he went fishing with his buddies, it was exactly like this. Whenever someone's line was cut, no matter how it happened, they would definitely exaggerate the size of the fish. Anything less than 10 pounds was an insult to their fishing skills. He hadn't expected that, even after being reborn in the other world, he would still witness this scene. Sure enough, no matter which world, the nature of fishermen is so similar. Lu Qing's laughter made Uncle Shi and the others feel a little embarrassed, especially with little Yen staring wide-eyed at their argument. It made them feel even more ashamed. For a group of adults to argue like this in front of 2 children was really detrimental to the elder's dignity. Lu Qing, where have you both come back from? In order to relieve the awkwardness, Uncle Shi could only change the subject. We've just come back from Grandpa Chen's place, Lu Qing replied. Uncle Shi nodded. Old Dr. Chen, yes, it makes sense. He cured your illness. It's only right to visit and express your gratitude. He had mistakenly assumed Lu Qing had gone to thank the elder doctor. Yes, without Grandpa Chen, I probably wouldn't be able to stand here right now. Lu Qing didn't deny it. By the way, Lu Qing, the fishing techniques we're using were provided by you. You should pick out a few fish to take home and eat, Uncle Shi said. Yeah. If it weren't for your techniques, we wouldn't have known that earthworms could be used for fishing. Pick from mine. Pick from mine. My fish are bigger. Bullshit, are your fish as big as mine? The biggest fish were caught by me. Choose mine. The other villagers also chimed in one after another. Uncles, there's no need. I still haven't finished eating the fish I caught yesterday. Lu Qing politely declined. If you can't finish them, eat more. You and Little Yen are both so thin. Fish is nutritious, you should eat more fish. In the end, Lu Qing couldn't resist the villagers' pressure and symbolically picked a few fish from each villager's bucket, threading a grass stem through them. Like that, he also ended up with a good half a pound of fish. Take some more. Uncle Shi kept persuading. I really can't take any more. If I do, I won't have enough oil and salt to cook them at home. This time, Lu Qing resolutely refused to take any more. Hearing this, Uncle Shi and the rest finally stopped urging him. Indeed, if you don't have oil and salt to cook fish, you can't get rid of the fishy smell, and it's really not that tasty. And so, carrying a string of fish and with Little Yen by his side, Lu Qing bid farewell to Uncle Shi and the others before heading back to his own small courtyard. Once home, he first placed the fish in the kitchen. Then, he took out the small box that Elder Chen had given him. Opening the box, he quietly looked at the silk thread inside. Chapter 14. New fishing rod, new fishing spot. After examining the thread for a while, a faint red light emanated. Snow silkworm silk. Thread spat by the spirit worm snow silkworm. Extremely tough. Impervious to water and fire. Immune to cuts from swords. It seems to be a fine treasure. Main material for making snow silkworm silk clothing. When Lu Qing used his superpower to investigate the information about the thread old Dr. Chen had given him, he couldn't help but reveal a look of surprise on his face. This mysterious thread was actually a red light level item. Having awakened his superpower some time ago, Lu Qing had come to understand that the glow revealed by items under his power's scrutiny often indicated their preciousness. The glows he had detected on items thus far were three types: gray, white, red. Among them, he had only seen red light on old Dr. Chen before, and the information revealed by the superpower showed that the elder doctor was a deeply hidden cultivation practitioner. Now he had discovered yet another red light item, and this item was also given by the elder doctor. I didn't expect this to be a red light treasure. Lu Qing had thought that this thread was no ordinary item, but he hadn't realized it would be so valuable. To be judged a treasure by his superpower, it must indeed be extraordinary. Look at how the information bar describes it. Impervious to water and fire, immune to cuts from swords. What kind of thread could have such characteristics if not a treasure? I wonder if old Dr. Chen knows how magical this thread is. Lu Qing felt a complex mix of emotions. In just a few days, he and Little Yen had received many favors from old Dr. Chen. And now he had even given them such precious thread. This made him feel both touched and ashamed. After all, he knew that his reason for getting close to old Dr. Chen was not entirely pure. It seems I can only seriously fish for some good items to give to Grandpa Chen. Lu Qing wanted very much to repay old Dr. Chen's kindness. But nowadays there really was nothing decent to offer at home. Moreover, with the elder doctor's discerning taste, monetary items might not catch his eye, especially since he had even given away a treasure like the snow silkworm silk. The only approach Lu Qing could take was starting from his hobby. Previously, from what the elder doctor had said, he seemed quite fond of fish. Conveniently, fishing was what Lu Qing was most skilled at. It seems you are destined to become my fishing line. Lu Qing picked up the small bundle of snow silkworm silk and immediately felt a soft, cool sensation upon handling it. The thread's thickness was similar to the river fishing lines he had used in his past life, and he wondered what kind of magical creature the snow silkworm really was to be capable of producing such thick silk. This bundle of snow silkworm silk didn't look very large, but upon closer inspection, Lu Qing realized that fully unraveled, it would likely be 100 meters long. Making a fishing line clearly wouldn't require this much silk. Lu Qing fetched a kitchen cleaver from the kitchen and prepared to cut off a segment of the silk to make a fishing line. However, when he placed the silk on a block of wood and chopped down, the silk sank into the wood along with the blade's edge, completely unharmed. It was then that Lu Qing remembered the superpower's description of the silk. Impervious to water and fire, immune to cuts from swords. He had originally thought this might just be a rhetorical way to describe the toughness of the silk. Unexpectedly, it was indeed just as it was described literally. At least for now, with the bluntness of the kitchen cleaver, it seemed impossible to cut through the snow silkworm silk. This did not hurry Lu Qing. To verify whether the snow silkworm silk was truly impervious to water and fire, he fetched a fire lighter from the kitchen, lit it up, and then placed a small segment of the silk directly in the flame to heat. As it turned out, the snow silkworm silk did not break immediately, withstanding the flame for a full 5 minutes before burning through. It seems impervious to water and fire is really just impervious, not invulnerable. Lu Qing looked at the small segment of silk that had fallen to the ground, contemplating. Of course, being able to withstand the fire for 5 minutes was already quite impressive. After all, this was silk, not wire. However, the fact that the snow silkworm silk could be burned through was good news for Lu Qing. If even fire couldn't affect it, and with such long silk unable to be cut, he would have had to make it into a throwing rod instead. But making a throwing rod is much more complicated than a hand pole. Moreover, when he used to make throwing rods, many parts were bought directly. He had never tried making everything from scratch. Under current conditions, it was not realistic for him to make a functional throwing rod. Fortunately, now that the snow silkworm silk could be burned through, it spared him a lot of trouble. Next, Lu Qing began to dedicate himself entirely to making a fishing rod. First, he chose the bamboo poles. Equipped with a kitchen cleaver, Lu Qing spent an entire day picking out a few slender old bamboo poles in the bamboo forest behind the village before chopping them down and bringing them home. After selecting the bamboo poles, it was time for trimming and baking the bamboo, and treating it for pest resistance, etc. These tasks also required a significant amount of time. But Lu Qing couldn't wait that long, so he chose one old bamboo pole and, after lightly baking it, immediately used it to make a fishing rod. The rest of the bamboo poles were left to be carefully baked later. After the bamboo poles were selected, the rest was easy. It didn't take much effort before Lu Qing had managed to make a new fishing rod.
Tajda.
Little Yen, look. How does this new fishing rod look? Pretty, isn't it? The next morning, with the newly made fishing rod on his shoulder, Lu Qing asked Little Yen. Pretty. The clever and cute Little Yen immediately turned into an enthusiastic supporter, nodding vigorously. I think it's pretty too. Chapter 15. Lu Qing flicked the fishing rod, his face full of pride. Although it was made in a rush, the quality of this new fishing rod was not bad. At this moment, in Lu Qing's eyes, the new fishing rod was emitting a thick white light. Snow silkworm silk fishing rod. A fishing rod made with snow silkworm silk as the fishing line. The line is tough, the rod is stable, and it can withstand 100 caddies of force without breaking. With this rod, you might be able to catch big fish. When Lu Qing first saw these words, he was startled. The new fishing rod he made could actually withstand 100 caddies of force. Snow silkworm silk is a treasure. Being able to withstand 100 caddies of force is impressive, but still acceptable. However, the fact that the old bamboo casually growing on the hill behind the village was also so tough was beyond his expectations. All he could say was, worthy of Otherworld. Not only could it give birth to such wonders as snow silkworm silk, even the bamboo that grows here was outstanding. If his old fishing buddies from his previous life knew about this, their eyes would probably glow green with envy. "Brother, the fishing rod is ready, are we going fishing now?" asked little Yen. "Let's go, of course." With the new fishing rod in hand, Lu Qing was brimming with confidence. Moreover, it had taken him 2 whole days to make this fishing rod. The fish at home had been mostly eaten over these 2 days. More importantly, in another day it was time for his appointment with Elder Dr. Chun for acupuncture. This time, when going to the elder doctor's house, he couldn't go empty-handed. "Yay! We can go fishing again." Little Yen immediately became excited upon hearing this. "Brother, I'll help you dig for earthworms." Saying this, she ran outside. Lu Qing shook his head. The little one didn't seem to realize most kids, especially girls, are somewhat afraid of worms and bugs. Yet, she was not scared at all. Instead, she even wanted to help him catch earthworms. Her courage was much greater than that of ordinary little girls. "I wonder if little Yen will become a lady as I wish, or turn into a tomboy?" A tinge of worry flashed unexpectedly through Lu Qing's heart. Although there was nothing wrong with being a tomboy, if possible, he still hoped his sister could become a gentle and virtuous girl. Shaking his head, he threw these distant thoughts out of his mind and walked outside with the fishing rod. Once outside the yard, little Yen was already waiting for him with a bamboo tube filled with earthworms. "Brother, hurry up," little Yen urged. "Coming, coming." Lu Qing picked up the shovel from outside the house and walked over. After digging up the earthworms, Lu Qing took out a small cloth bag from the house and put it in his pocket. "Brother, what is this?" the little one asked curiously. "This is our secret weapon. Whether we can catch big fish today depends entirely on it," Lu Qing said mysteriously. "Big fish?" The little one's eyes immediately lit up. She didn't know how big the fish Lu Qing mentioned would be, but it sounded very impressive. After packing the secret weapon, Lu Qing also fetched the wooden barrel used to store fish a few days ago, picked up the new fishing rod, and headed forward. "Let's go, set off." "Set off," little Yen also shouted in her tender voice. Before long, the siblings had reached the entrance of the village. Little Yen was leading, jumping along with the bamboo tube holding the earthworms. She continuously muttered, "Big fish, big fish." Passing villagers who saw her like this couldn't help but laugh. "Little Yen, where are you and your brother heading?" "It's Uncle Zhao. I'm going with my brother to the river to fish, to catch big fish," the little one politely replied. "Oh, big fish, huh? How do you know you'll catch a big fish?" Uncle Zhao teased her. "Of course, I know because my brother said so, and he's the best at fishing," the little one declared proudly. "Ha ha! Yes, yes, your brother is the best." Seeing her proud little figure, Uncle Zhao laughed even more and humored her. "Children say the darndest things, Uncle Zhao, please don't mind," Lu Qing said apologetically. "No worries, no worries. Little Yen is cute just like that," Uncle Zhao chuckled. "When you were sick a few days ago, the way she cried really made one's heart ache. But still, you go fishing, but make sure to keep an eye on little Yen. Don't let her play in the water." "I know," Lu Qing answered seriously. "Little Yen, did you hear that? Listen to your brother. When we get to the river, don't go playing in the water secretly." "Okay." Uncle Zhao once again cautioned little Yen. "I know," the little one answered obediently. "I'm very well behaved." "Yes, little Yen is the most well behaved." Uncle Zhao ruffled her hair, his tone somewhat wistful. After saying goodbye to Uncle Zhao, the siblings continued towards the river. However, when they arrived at the river, both were dumbfounded. They found that the spot where Lu Qing had fished last time was already taken. And it wasn't just 1 or 2 people, but 7 or 8 people squeezed into a small space. Moreover, the siblings knew these people. They were all villagers from their village. "Lu Qing, you're here to fish as well? Why not come over and squeeze in with us?" One villager greeted them. We've run out of fish at home, so I thought I'd come here to catch some," Lu Qing said with a smile. He then curiously asked, "Why are you all squeezed together fishing? Aren't you afraid of tangling your fishing lines by accident?" "Tell me about it, we don't want to either," the villager sighed painfully. It's too hard to catch fish anywhere else. You might wait ages just to get one. Only at this spot is it easier to catch fish. By the way, they said you fished here last time. Because it's easier to catch fish, so you all squeezed together? Lu Qing was somewhat speechless. But he still nodded. Yes, I fished here last time. Then you are really amazing. The villager gave him a thumbs up. You picked such a good spot. These past few days we caught the most fish here. But today, for some reason, the fish have started biting less. Of course, they're biting less. With so many of you crammed into one spot, even a lot of fish would get fished out. Even if they weren't fished out, the remaining ones must have become skittish. Lu Qing shook his head. This fishing spot was probably going to be ruined. At least for a long time, it would be hard for it to return to its original state. You guys keep fishing. I'll try my luck elsewhere. After expressing his speechlessness, Lu Qing led Little Yen in another direction. The villagers didn't try to stop them. Rather, they breathed a sigh of relief. It was crowded enough here. If another person joined, there really would be no space left. As for Lu Qing saying he was going to try his luck elsewhere, they didn't care. In the past few days, they had also tried fishing in other parts of the river, but with little success. Fishing around, they found that this spot was indeed the easiest to catch fish. Otherwise, they wouldn't all be crowding here. After leaving the popular fishing spot, Lu Qing walked on with Little Yen. Although he felt speechless about the villagers' actions, he couldn't really complain. After all, the river belonged to everyone, and everyone had the right to fish here. It wasn't as if once someone fished at a certain spot, that spot would belong to them. So regarding the villagers taking over the popular fishing spot, Lu Qing didn't feel much about it. After all, he possessed superpower, so if a spot was taken, he could just find another. With such a long river, there must be countless fishing spots. Surely there would be no lack of places to fish. Thinking this way, Lu Qing continued walking forward with Little Yen. He didn't even go to the other two fishing spots he had discovered last time, because those two spots were also within other villagers' line of sight. What if he caught fish there and everyone rushed to take advantage of the spot? What would he do then? So he might as well go far away to a place no one could see to fish, to avoid unnecessary trouble. Since he was well prepared this time, not only did he bring fishing rods and a bucket, but also the firewood knife from home, so he could clear a new fishing spot anytime. Lu Qing led Little Yen, walking slowly along the riverbank, and kept using his superpower to search the river surface. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. Chapter 16. The Giant Fish, the Magical Fish Stone. At a bend in the river, Lu Qing finally discovered another new fishing spot. Primary fishing point, nutrient-rich, lush with aquatic plants, a favorite foraging ground for fish. Here, mutant fruits grow, which are the preferred food of some strange fish. Fishing here might bring unexpected joy. Its radiance was even more intense than the first primary fishing point he had found. Mutant fruits growing above? Lu Qing looked up, searching the bank near the fishing spot. Soon, several oddly shaped plants caught his attention. Under the scrutiny of superpower, these plants also emitted a white light. Blood apricot tree. Can bear blood apricots. Non-toxic, usable in medicine. Rumor has it that blood apricots contain a special substance that is highly favored by some strange fish. Blood apricots? Lu Qing eyed the small red fruits hanging from the trees, about the size of a little finger. Were these the mutant fruits that the strange fish liked to eat? Intrigued, he walked forward. Fortunately, the blood apricot trees weren't too tall, so he easily managed to pick a handful. Brother, those fruits look so yummy. Little Yen couldn't help but swallow at the sight of the blood-red blood apricots in Lu Qing's hand. These aren't meant for eating, although the information from superpower indicated that blood apricots were non-toxic. It also mentioned they could be used medicinally, and since they were medicinal, Lu Qing didn't dare to let Little Yen eat them recklessly. If they're not for eating, what did you pick them for, brother? For fishing, some fishy fish really like these fruits. I want to try and see if I can use them to catch a big fish, Lu Qing explained. Big fish like fruits too? Little Yan's eyes widened with surprise. Yeah, fishy fish like to eat all sorts of things. Earthworms, fruits, corn, grass, they all like it. They even like corn and grass? The little one's eyes widened even more. It was her first time hearing about this, and she found it absolutely fascinating. So these fruits aren't for little Yen to eat. They are to fish for big fishy fish. Got it. Little Yen understands. The little one nodded her head repeatedly. She was more interested in the big fish than in the fruits. Little Yen, you wait here for a moment. Brother is going to tidy up the surrounding area. After instructing little Yen not to wander off, Lu Qing secured his short-handled firewood knife to a stick and began to clear the weeds and miscellaneous trees around the fishing spot. Tidying up fishing spots had been common practice for Lu Qing in his previous life, so he was naturally skilled at it now. Before long, he had cleared away the weeds and miscellaneous trees by the bank and created a good spot for fishing. However, he didn't touch the few blood apricot trees, as they, being white light-level plants, were valuable. Once the fishing spot was prepared, Lu Qing was ready to begin fishing. He still didn't bait the area with food, as the food supply at home wasn't plentiful enough to afford such wastefulness. With the otherworld's rivers so rich in resources and selected by his superpower as a natural fishing spot, he was confident in catching fish even without baiting. Sitting by the bank, Lu Qing decided to start with earthworms, to secure his meals for the next 2 days first and foremost. After threading an earthworm onto the hook, he cast it into the water, the float settling on the surface. Worthy of being the whitest of the glows among a few fishing spots selected by his superpower. No sooner had Lu Qing dropped his hook into the water, and before he could even put down his fishing rod, he saw the float start to move. It trembled a few times, then sharply darted downwards. With a flick of his wrist, a whoosh sounded, and he instantly pulled the fish up. The fish wasn't big, a small whitefish about 2 fingers wide. Lu Qing raised an eyebrow, guessing that this little whitefish must be one of the most common fish in the river, always present everywhere. It's a little whitefish. Little Yen had also recognized the fish on the hook and exclaimed immediately, "Yes, whitefish. Looks like we're going to have a big haul today." Lu Qing removed the fish and placed it in the bucket. Having a fish bite so quickly was an auspicious start, and it gave him the premonition that he might really catch something big today. With that thought, Lu Qing's spirits lifted. However, what happened next was a bit beyond Lu Qing's expectations. After catching several more small fish, when he cast his line again, there was a long pause with no sign of fish biting. When small fish aren't biting, it means there are either no fish left or there's a big one down there driving away the school of small fish. The experienced Lu Qing quickly made his own judgment. He promptly pulled up the hook, removed the earthworm on it, and then took out a small cloth bag. It's the secret weapon. Little Yen immediately recognized this as something her brother had packed when they left home. Lu Qing opened the cloth bag and took out several kernels of glistening golden corn. This corn was what Lu Qing had gotten from Aunt Wang next door that morning, naturally to use as bait. In his previous life, when Lu Qing went wild fishing, corn was what he usually used to catch big fish. Fish like carp and grass carp especially loved to eat corn, and it never failed him. He wasn't sure if the big fish in this world were the same, but it was worth a shot. If that didn't work, he planned to try the newly picked blood apricots. Hooking a plump, fresh kernel of corn, Lu Qing cast his line once again. Unexpectedly, this time the result took him by surprise. The moment the hook hit the water, before the float even steadied and while he was half crouching preparing to sit, suddenly, without any warning, the float dramatically sank beneath the water. The fishing line went taut, and a tremendous force from the rod pulled Lu Qing into a stumble. Chapter 17. Lu Qing reacted quickly, taking a step forward to stabilize his stance. "Nice try ambushing me." Clasping the fishing rod tightly, he felt the tug from the line. His face lit up with excitement. This is definitely a big fish. Such strength, surely it's not something a fish less than 5 pounds could exert. Roaring. When the fish couldn't break free, it started to exert more force, pulling the fishing line taut and creating a whooshing sound. Think you can slip away from my hands? No way. Seeing the fish exert force again, Lu Qing wasn't the least bit panicked. He slightly loosened his grip, releasing most of the tension. Then he tightened again, continuing the struggle with the fish below. His new fishing rod, certified by a superpower, could withstand 100 pounds of force, and he didn't believe the fish could break it. "Brother, you can do it." Little Yen, standing by his side, was very nervous. But she dared not shout loudly, fearing she might scare the big fish away, so she could only clench her small fists and quietly cheer for her brother. The next period was a time of wit and strength between Lu Qing and the fish. The two sides tugged back and forth for half an hour before Lu Qing felt the fish's strength start to wane. "I've finally worn you out." Lu Qing breathed a sigh of relief. This tussle had drained quite a bit of his energy. Had it not been for the acupuncture he received from Elder Dr. Chun a couple of days ago, which replenished a lot of his primordial qi, he might not have lasted. Once the fish reached its limit, it had no chance of escaping from Lu Qing's grasp. After a while, with another burst of effort from Lu Qing, the big fish, which had struggled with him for a long time, finally surfaced. The siblings finally got a clear view of the fish's true appearance. What a big fish! Upon seeing the fish's head and back, little Yen couldn't help but exclaim loudly. Even Lu Qing couldn't help but feel a bit excited. Goodness, with this size, this fish must be over 10 pounds. Suppressing the excitement in his heart, Lu Qing clutched the fishing rod tightly. Fishing, especially near the end, requires utmost attention. Otherwise, if the fish were to escape at the last moment, he might rue it deeply even at his 80th birthday. However, despite utmost caution, a mishap still occurred as Lu Qing prepared to land the fish. He realized a significant problem. He hadn't prepared a landing net. Of course, this wasn't really his fault, as they didn't have a net at home. Not just a landing net, they didn't even have a simple net. Without a net, he couldn't simply scoop up the fish. Lu Qing had no choice but to continue playing it. Only when the fish was utterly exhausted did he let little Yen hold the rod while he lay on the bank, planning to personally lift the fish up. This was actually risky because a fish of this size might still have some strength left. A swish of its tail could potentially knock someone unconscious. Fortunately, this fish had indeed been worn out completely by Lu Qing. In the end, all was well. Lu Qing managed to lift the fish. "Brother, this big fish looks even taller than little Yen." When the fish was lifted away from the riverbank, little Yen measured it and immediately marveled. "It does seem a bit taller." Lu Qing checked, and it indeed was. This big fish was over a meter long, even taller than little Yen by a bit. "Let me see what kind of fish this actually is." Lu Qing saw that the fish, with its elongated body and neatly arranged scales like armor plates, looked quite imposing. He immediately used his superpower to check the fish's information. As he focused his gaze, a dense white light soon emerged from the big fish. "It's a white light." Lu Qing felt a touch of disappointment. He had hoped that such a big fish might reach the red light level. But then again, he considered himself a bit too greedy. If this fish were at the red light level, whether he could have landed it at all was still in question. After all, he had only seen red light level objects twice before. One was Elder Dr. Chun, and the other was Snow Silkworm Silk. And both were out of the ordinary. Elder Dr. Chun was a practitioner of cultivation, and Snow Silkworm Silk was even more an exotic treasure. If this big fish also reached the red light level, it might have some special abilities. In that case, it was uncertain who would pull whom. It was possible that on the very first try, he would be dragged into the water. After calming his mind, Lu Qing focused his attention on the new piece of text that appeared. Green armored fish, a large fish species, covered in green armored scales, considered a tyrant in the river, containing fish stone. Rumor has it that in the throat of a fully grown green armored fish, there lies a fish stone. Obtaining and polishing it to wear can have soul-soothing and mind-stabilizing effects. Fish stone. This big fish he just caught contained a fish stone. Lu Qing was not unfamiliar with fish stone. In his previous life, he had caught a wild green fish weighing over 20 pounds, which had a fish stone inside it. At that time, a boss had offered him over 10,000 for it, but he didn't sell it. As for the reason, besides liking it, it was naturally because there had always been a rumor in the fishing community. It was said that fish stones of a certain age could safeguard one's safety. Whether the fish stone from his previous life could ensure safety was unclear to Lu Qing. But the fish stone inside this green armored fish was recognized by his superpower as having soul-soothing and mind-stabilizing effects. It happened to be that little Yen, since the death of their parents, had not been sleeping well at night, often waking up from nightmares needing his embrace to continue sleeping. If the fish stone from this green armored fish really had such magical effects, that would be wonderful. In excitement, Lu Qing almost could not help himself from ripping open the green armored fish. Fortunately, he still had his senses and ultimately controlled himself. "Brother, how are we going to take this big fish home? The bucket seems too small." At this moment, little Yen asked in some distress. She had just measured, and the big fish was much taller than the wooden barrel they brought. It wouldn't fit at all. "No problem. In a moment your brother will twist some grass ropes and carry it back," Lu Qing confidently said. "It's just a fish that weighs about 10 or 20 pounds. The fish has been caught. How hard could it be to carry it back?" "Is that so? Are we going to continue fishing?" Little Yen asked again. This question stumped Lu Qing. With his usual experience, after the long struggle and pulling with this green armored fish, he had covered the entire nearby water area of the fishing spot. Generally, at such times, the bottom would be stirred up, and even if there were fish, they would have scattered. But then he thought about the blood apricots he picked earlier and hesitated. According to the information given by his superpower, blood apricots were delicacies for some strange fish. As a seasoned fishing enthusiast, he was quite curious about these so-called strange fish. What special characteristics could those labeled as strange by his superpower have? Even this green armored fish possessing a fish stone didn't seem to earn the title of strange from his superpower. What kind of strangeness did these so-called strange fish have? After some hesitation, Lu Qing decided to fish a little longer. They were said to be strange fish. Perhaps they were not scared away by the green armored fish? Thus, with such luck in mind, Lu Qing filled a bucket with water, positioned the head of the green armored fish downward, barely soaking it in the bucket, then sat back at the fishing spot. However, he also made up his mind to fish just a little longer. After a while, if no fish bit, he would head home. Otherwise, the green armored fish might not last too long. Dead fish are never as tasty as live ones. Having reset his stance, Lu Qing this time directly hung a blood apricot on the fish hook. He cast the hook into the water and began quietly waiting. Time ticked by second, and quickly half an hour had passed. The float showed no signs of movement, as if it had stopped. "Looks like it stirred up the area after all. Even the strange fish couldn't avoid it." Lu Qing sighed. This result was not beyond his expectations. He just had held a bit of hope earlier. "Let's head back." Just as Lu Qing was preparing to pack up his fishing rod to head home, suddenly, he saw the float sharply dive into the water. Chapter 18 Red Moon Carp. Suddenly, the bite caught Lu Qing off guard. Fortunately, with his many years of fishing experience, his reactions were always timely. In just an instant, he gripped the fishing rod firmly, stabilized his posture, and managed not to be dragged into the water with the rod. This pull was no weaker than that of the previous green armored fish. "Wow! You fish from the other world really like to sneak attack, huh?" Feeling the pulling force transmitted through the rod, Lu Qing couldn't help but laugh and cry. As an experienced angler, today he had nearly capsized twice and had to tackle it seriously. The big fish of this other world really didn't play fair. No prelude before biting and always launching sneak attacks. If it weren't for his extensive experience, they would have succeeded. But since the first sneak attack failed, all of you might as well come up. Lu Qing held the fishing rod tightly with both hands, constantly sensing the changes in the force on the rod, and reacting accordingly, starting a new round of wrestling with the fish underwater. After wrestling for a while, Lu Qing noticed something was off. He had assumed the new fish on the hook would be similar in size to the green armored fish. After all, the initial pulling force was quite strong. But now he felt a difference. Unlike the green armored fish, whose force was mighty and relentless, the current fish, though also fierce in strength, lacked persistence. As long as Lu Qing could stabilize the initial burst, it quickly weakened. It was the kind of explosive but not enduring type. Based on experience, Lu Qing guessed that the fish underwater wasn't as big as he initially thought. Rather, it was a type of fish that moved quickly and had strong explosive power, but was not large in size. Knowing this, Lu Qing felt even more at ease. Fish that sprint in speed were much easier to deal with than big fish like the green armored fish. The big fish like the green armored fish had immense strength. A mere effort could require his utmost care. Moreover, they had good stamina, and it was a test of patience on both sides. For fish with explosive sprinting, as long as he could stabilize the initial struggle, the fish's strength would continue decreasing, and there would be no escape. Things went just as Lu Qing had anticipated. After stabilizing a few bursts of force from the unknown fish underwater, he distinctly felt that its explosive force had begun to wane. Then, after a period of pulling and tugging, Lu Qing saw the outline of the fish. Red fish. When he saw the fish hooked and emerging from the water, Lu Qing was stunned for a moment, because the fish turned out to be a vibrant fiery red. Strange fish. This was definitely a strange fish. Seeing such an eye-catching brilliant red, Lu Qing's heart instantly stirred with excitement. He also noticed that the red fish really wasn't very big, only about 20 to 30 centimeters long. With this understanding, it became much easier for Lu Qing to handle the fish. Before long, the fish was nearly deprived of its strength, and he directly lifted it out of the water. "Brother, that fish is so beautiful," Little Yen exclaimed, her eyes lighting up as she looked at the fish on the grass. "It really is beautiful." Lu Qing, after getting a clear view of the fish's appearance, couldn't help but admire. The newly caught fish was about a foot long, slender in shape, much resembling the carp from the blue star of his previous life. It had two graceful long barbels near its mouth and a tail that was like a blossomed flower. Coupled with its flame-like red scales, the entire fish looked exceedingly beautiful. After watching for a while, the information about the fish began to appear before Lu Qing's eyes. Red moon carp, strange fish, clad in red scale armor, which swims exceptionally fast. Because its body contains a hint of spiritual charm, its flesh is extremely nourishing and delicious, and its scales can also be used in medicine. Rumor has it that if the red moon carp is properly nurtured, it may have a chance to evolve into a spirit fish. Along with several descriptions, there was also a glow emanating from the fish's body, a white light tinged with a hint of red. Red light. At first, Lu Qing thought he had seen it wrong. That red light was a reflection off the scales of the red moon carp. But after he looked closely, he confirmed that it was not a reflection from the scales, but indeed a glow that only his superpower could see, representing the grade of the object. That is to say, this red moon carp was not merely at the level of white light. It was a strange fish at a level between white and red light. No wonder, he thought, why there were 3 descriptions. Typically, white light items only had 2 descriptions. He immediately focused on the 3rd description. Has a chance to evolve into a spirit fish. Lu Qing pondered as he read the 3rd description. Could this spirit fish be a higher level of existence than the strange fish? He suddenly remembered the snow silkworm silk gifted by Elder Dr. Chun. The snow silkworm silk was already a treasure at the red light level. Perhaps the snow silkworm that spawned such treasure might be a spiritual silkworm. Unfortunately, this speculation was destined to remain unanswered for the time being. Even Elder Dr. Chun did not know the origin of the snow silkworm silk, so even if he wanted to ask, there was nowhere to turn for answers. Thus, compared to the 3rd description, the 2nd description was more useful to him. The flesh is extremely nourishing and delicious. Lu Qing smiled slightly as he read the information on the tag. Finally, he had a gift for Elder Dr. Chun tomorrow. Initially, he had planned to take the green armored fish to the Elder Doctor if there were no further catches. But now, clearly, the red moon carp was more precious. And its size was not too large. making it more suitable as a gift. Thinking of this, Lu Qing quickly took out the green armored fish and put the red moon carp into the bucket. Since it was to be a gift, he couldn't let it die. Fortunately, the red moon carp lived up to its name as a strange fish. Although it had previously been exhausted by Lu Qing and had spent quite a while on the grass, once it was back in the water in the bucket, it immediately started swimming again. Its vitality was remarkably tenacious. After obtaining the red moon carp, Lu Qing no longer thought of continuing fishing. Battling with two large fish had nearly exhausted his strength. If he continued fishing, even if he could still catch fish, he wouldn't have the strength to manage them anymore. So it was best to quit while ahead. Little Yen, let's get ready to go back. Lu Qing improvised with materials at hand, twisting a grass rope to secure and carry the green armored fish. Holding the bucket in one hand and the firewood knife and fishing rod in the other, he then said to Little Yen, "Brother, let me help you carry some things." Little Yen saw her brother both carrying and holding so much, and she felt a bit heartbroken for him. That works. Lu Qing tried walking a bit and realized that he indeed had too many things to carry comfortably. After thinking, he first hung the bamboo tube with earthworms around Little Yen's neck. Then, he placed the fishing rod on her shoulder. "Little Yen, you carry the fishing rod. Be careful as you walk. Don't trip." "Okay, Little Yen knows." The little girl nodded seriously. In this way, the siblings, one carrying the fish and the other the fishing rod, struggled back along their way. When they passed by the small fishing spot, the villagers who saw the large and small figures were immediately stunned. Chapter 19 Mental Breakdown. When Lu Qing and Little Yen appeared at the fishing spot, the villagers who were still fishing there were stunned by the sight of the fish on Lu Qing's back. Lu Qing, what are you carrying on your back?" a villager stammered. "A fish." Lu Qing took a breath and replied. He really felt a little tired. His body had not fully recovered yet, and he had struggled with the green armored fish and the red moon carp for so long. Now, walking with so much on his back was becoming too much. However, his answer somewhat exasperated the villagers. Nonsense. They obviously knew he was carrying fish. The question was, where had he managed to catch such big fish? The villagers looked at the fish on Lu Qing's back, which was almost as tall as his body and dragged its tail on the ground, and felt a bit dizzy. Oh my God! It was the first time they had seen such a big fish. But some villagers noticed Lu Qing's difficulty and quickly stepped forward to help him unload the fish. "Come on, let me carry it for you. Your body has just recovered not long ago. Don't get tired again." Lu Qing didn't refuse. He really was struggling to keep up. He had thought he could carry the fish home, but it seemed he had overestimated his strength. "Thank you, Brother Den." Lu Qing set the fish down and took a deep breath. "Hey, no need to thank me. It's the first time I've seen such a big fish, and touching one is a blessing. No, wait. There's another one in this bucket. Such a beautiful fish." Villager Daen was delighted and bent down to look, then exclaimed in surprise. The other villagers, hearing this, could no longer hold back and immediately crowded around to look into the bucket. "It really is. There's another big fish in the bucket. What fish is this, bright red? I've never seen this before. This fish is so beautiful. The nobles in the city will surely like it." "My goodness, Lu Qing. How did you manage to catch two big fish at once?" When the final question came out, everyone looked at Lu Qing. "How I fished them. Just like you guys." Lu Qing reached out and took the fishing rod from Little Yan's shoulder. "I just chose a spot upstream, never expecting to catch two big fish. It was luck." "Where exactly did you fish then?" a villager asked, eyes shifting. As soon as this was asked, a few other villagers looked at him with some disdain. His intentions were too obvious. He didn't even try to hide it, taking advantage of kids here. Feeling something was amiss after he asked, that villager quickly smirked. "I'm just curious. Don't tell me you guys aren't curious." Lu Qing certainly understood what the villager meant, but he wasn't too concerned. After all, even if he didn't tell them, they would certainly go searching eventually. He couldn't hide the traces of where he had set up his fishing spot. So he straightforwardly said, just not far ahead, but I advise you not to go there now." "Why not?" the villager blurted out. "Because that spot blew up earlier, now there aren't even small fish there, let alone big ones. Otherwise I wouldn't have come back so soon," Lu Qing half-truthfully said. The other villagers found this reasonable. Lu Qing had caught 2 big fish, especially the one on the ground, which was incredibly large. Such a big fish would definitely make a lot of noise when caught. It was no wonder the other fish would have scattered. However, despite what was said, there were still villagers who held onto a glimmer of hope. For example, the villager who had asked about Lu Qing's fishing spot had already decided to sneak over there later to see exactly where Lu Qing had been fishing. Lu Qing didn't care what the villagers were thinking. After all, he had said his piece, and if others refused to believe and insisted on fishing there, he had no control over it. Moreover, even if someone did go fishing there, he didn't care. As for the small fish, they meant little to him, but the big fish, it wasn't that he looked down on the villagers, but with their skills, they simply couldn't catch a big fish. Even if they were lucky enough to hook a big fish, their fragile twine couldn't withstand the enormous impact of a big fish. After resting for a while, Lu Qing felt his strength partially return. "Everyone, Little Yen and I are heading back. You all continue fishing." Having said that, he prepared to pick up the green armored fish. Upon seeing this, Brother Dun quickly bent down and lifted the fish. "Weren't you supposed to let me do this, Lu Qing? You just carry the bucket." "Man, this fish is heavy. Must be nearly 40 pounds. Only when he truly lifted the green armored fish did and realize it was even heavier than he had anticipated. He couldn't help but glance at Lu Qing, finding it hard to imagine how Lu Qing, with his slight build, had managed to reel in such a big fish. "Then thank you, Brother Dun. When we get back, I'll treat you to fish." Lu Qing didn't refuse the help, as he was actually quite happy to accept it. "That sounds great. I've never eaten such a big fish before." Brother Dun became instantly cheerful. Watching Lu Qing and the others head toward the village, the remaining villagers looked at one another. Suddenly, one villager shouted, "Stop fishing! Let's go back to the village to see the excitement." "Exactly, we've been here all morning and only caught a few small fish. Better to go back and see how Lu Qing handles the fish. I haven't had enough of those 2 big fish just now. Need to go back and take a few more looks." If, before Lu Qing's return, the villagers still had the patience to keep waiting here, now, watching Lu Qing leave with 2 big fish, they couldn't help but feel a little discouraged. They had been guarding this spot for 2 or 3 days, yet couldn't compare to the scraps Lu Qing had gained in just a couple of hours. How was that fair? Might as well not fish at all. With their morale shattered, the villagers began packing up their things, preparing to head back to the village. Lu Qing and his group had just left, and if they hurried, they might even catch up. "Old Zhao, aren't you going back?" Everyone was packing up, but one person remained unmoved, still sitting and fishing. Seeing this, someone asked, "You guys go ahead, I'm gonna fish a little longer. Maybe the fish will bite soon." Old Zhao, who had earlier inquired about Lu Qing's fishing spot, grinned. "All right, you keep fishing. But I'm telling you, this place has been fished by me for several days already. It's been cleaned out. Didn't you see how much Lu Qing disliked it here?" Initially, people didn't take Lu Qing's fishing skills seriously, thinking he caught those many small fish just by using earthworms as bait. But after seeing those 2 big fish, nobody dared to underestimate Lu Qing's fishing skills anymore. Such big fish, if it were up to them, they surely couldn't catch them. These past few days, it wasn't that nobody had tried being bitten by big fish. The result was always failure. Either the fishing line would break or the rod would snap, not one of them able to pull up the big fish. After packing up, the villagers gradually left. Only old Zhao remained alone, calmly continuing to fish. After a while, ensuring no one else could see him, old Zhao suddenly leapt up. He hurriedly packed up his things. Idiots. All believing whatever that kid Lu Qing says. I don't believe he has fished out all the fish from that place. Saying that, he picked up his belongings and ran toward the direction Lu Qing and Little Yen had gone back to. Chapter 20. Onlookers. The the villagers ultimately failed to catch up with Lu Qing and his two companions. With Brother Dian's help, they moved quite swiftly, especially since the river was not far from the village. Thus, by the time they were still packing up by the river, Lu Qing and the others had already returned to the village. And when they arrived back in the village, it caused quite a sensation. Inevitably, the giant fish carried on Brother Dian's back was too eye-catching. And this guy loved to flaunt it, walking right up to anyone he saw as soon as he entered the village. The others weren't blind. How could they not notice the fish he was carrying? Seeing such a large fish, exclamations were inevitable. Brother Dian caught a big fish, such a big fish. This shout naturally drew more villagers out to see the spectacle. And indeed, it was a huge fish, frighteningly huge, that immediately stirred up excitement. Well, Yudoan catching such a big fish. Quick, tell us how you managed to catch it. Goodness, that fish must be more than 20 pounds. Impressive. Dan, Brother Dian is so amazing for catching such a big fish. A crowd of villagers surrounded Dian, touching the fish while expressing their amazement. The children were even more excited, jumping and shouting. Lu Qing watched with amusement as Brother Dian showcased the green armored fish to everyone. This scene reminded him of his past life's fellow fishing enthusiasts who, upon occasionally catching a big fish, behaved in exactly the same boasting manner. It seemed as if they had to show off intensively, or else they'd feel they had wasted the hardship of waiting by the river. When Brother Dian had bragged enough, Lu Qing finally called out somewhat helplessly, "All right, Brother Dian, let's go back." After enough showing off, Brother Dian squeezed out of the crowd and ran over to Lu Qing. "I forgot to tell you guys. I didn't catch this big fish. It was Lu Qing who did it." Lu Qing caught it? Everyone turned their attention to Lu Qing. Little Yen immediately lifted her head proudly. "Yes, this big fish was caught by my brother after a lot of effort. We have an even prettier big fish in our bucket." "It really was Lu Qing who caught it? There's another big fish in the bucket?" Upon hearing this, everyone hurriedly crowded around to look into the bucket Lu Qing was holding. Upon seeing the contents, everyone was stunned. The red moon carp's appearance was simply too stunning. The dazzling fiery red color was like a flame burning in the water, making it evident at first sight that this was no ordinary fish. "What kind of fish is this? It's so beautiful." "A fiery red fish. It's my first time seeing one. Such a beautiful fish. Where did you catch it, Lu Qing?" "Lu Qing, do you know what kind of fish this is?" everyone asked in wonder. "I don't know what kind of fish this is either." Lu Qing shook his head. "Tomorrow I plan to take it to Grandpa Chan to see if he recognizes it." Yes, Elder Chan, with his broad knowledge and experience, will definitely recognize this fish." If there was anyone in the village who commanded the villagers' respect, it was undoubtedly old Dr. Chun. Not only because most had been treated by the elder doctor at some point, but also because the elder doctor was universally recognized as the most knowledgeable person in the village. Regularly entering the city, his experiences were not something those rural folk could compare to. Everyone gathered around, fervently discussing the two large fish for a long time. After satisfying their curiosity, they finally dispersed contentedly. Lu Qing did invite everyone to his house, saying he would cook the fish for them. But who in the village didn't know his family's situation? One by one, they all declined. Even those few who were tempted to taste the big fish were quickly pulled away by others before they could speak up. Really blind to propriety, trying to take advantage of two poor orphans. Aren't they afraid of being criticized? After everyone had left, Lu Qing finally picked up the bucket, and together with little Yen and Brother Dian, returned to his own yard. "Lu Qing, I'm heading back now." Just as they reached the yard, Brother Dian put down the fish, ready to leave. Lu Qing hurriedly stopped him. "Don't go, Brother Dian. I promised to treat you to fish." "You actually took it seriously?" "I was joking before. With your family's situation, if I really stayed for a meal, I would be chased away with a stick by my old man when I got home. You can't let me break my word, though. Anyway, I can't dare to stay for a meal." The two argued, but neither could convince the other. Brother Duan, such big fish, my sister and I can't finish them quickly. And with the weather warming, the fish meat won't last long. If you take a couple of pieces home, it would also help lighten my load, Lu Qing earnestly said. Well, okay then. Brother Duan saw Lu Qing put it that way and hesitated a bit, but in the end, he agreed. Seeing him relent, Lu Qing immediately went to the kitchen to get a knife, ready to butcher the fish. And truly, the green armored fish, living up to its name, had incredibly tough scales. Lu Qing exerted a lot of effort, and with the help of Brother Duan, they finally managed to scrape off the scales and then cut open the belly. After splitting the fish apart from the swim bladder, he planned to discard the other viscera, like the intestines and liver. Food prepared from such large fish, like the green armored fish's viscera, could be delicious. In his past life, Lu Qing had been quite fond of eating fish intestines. But given the current situation at home, barely having any condiments, he simply wasn't able to cook such strongly flavored ingredients properly, forcing Lu Qing to reluctantly give them up. After removing the viscera, Lu Qing immediately chopped out 2 large pieces of fish meat, wrapped them in banana leaves, and handed them to Brother Duan. All this, Brother Duan looked at the 2 large pieces of fish meat, astonished. These 2 pieces of fish meat weighed at least several pounds. Not much, Brother Duan, look. There's still so much fish meat here. Little Yen and I couldn't possibly finish it. Lu Qing forcefully stuffed the fish meat into Brother Duan's hands. Brother Duan glanced at the chopping board, indeed seeing a large pile of fish meat, and didn't refuse any further. Lu Qing, I think your household is the only one in the village having trouble with too much fish to eat, Brother Duan said with a laugh after taking the fish meat. After seeing Lu Qing's catch today, Brother Duan also realized that Lu Qing's household would likely not lack fish in the future. Fish can't be eaten as a staple though, Lu Qing said helplessly. One still needs to eat proper meals, but it's a pity our fields are lying fallow, and it's not yet time to plant crops. That is a problem indeed, Brother Duan nodded. He knew that due to the major upheaval the Lu family had experienced, Lu Qing had missed the planting season. It would still be several months until the next one. He thought for a moment, then suddenly his eyes lit up. Lu Qing, you're so good at fishing, why not sell the fish you catch at the market? Once you have money, you can buy grains. Sell fish? Lu Qing was puzzled. But I remember, there are entry fees required to enter the city, and I currently have no money. I'm not talking about the city, but about going to the big market not far from our village. Big market? Lu Qing blinked.